Good evening to all of you. If you're able to hear as well as see, please drop a comment. अगर आपको आवाज आ रही है तो एक कमेंट कर दीजिए. So again, I welcome all of you to the people who have attended the All India mock test that Sunya IAS has conducted. I think the voice is audible. I can see a couple of comments. Okay. So just how many of you have attempted jo discussion? If those who are watching the discussion, how many of you attempted the test? And if you attempted the test, how many questions did you attempt? I just wanted to know. Because based on this, we'll also be conducting this discussion. Hello, audio and video is fine, excellent. So now, there are a few things that we want to know. Few things. Number one, those who are attending the discussion, and let's say if you want to attend the discussion later, okay. So the idea line, okay, you may have attempted whatever is your attempt, that is okay. It could be high, it could be low. This is the very first mock test that we have conducted, right? Now, it could happen that some sections of the paper you could not have attempted, kuch portions you are not able to revise, some portions may have felt difficult, but do not worry, we are still in the month of Feb, okay? And this was your first test. The more you revise it, the more practice you will have, that is the whole idea, then it would get better, okay? Okay, I think somebody, Ravi Shankar, you have attempted 90, okay, great. Netra Reddy has done 75. Okay, great. Okay. Other people, you can also be participative. Okay. The answer key just after jaise discussion khatam hoga, the moment the discussion ends, you will get your answer key also with the explanation, right? Here the idea is to understand how to have attempted some of the questions, maybe what is the thought process behind it, how to solve these questions. So roughly, I'll try to keep the session brief so that we also cover all the questions, number one, and also we are able to understand them comprehensively. Okay. AK, how much did you attempt? Now, more than the score, okay? Score se zyada, what is more important is our learnings. This is the first maybe mock test that you have given, right? And this covers all the subjects. But we want to know, and we want to do this in a more comprehensive manner. So your learnings are very important. Did you mark any questions wrong? Okay. Did you not read between the lines? So what all the mistakes that we do, because in a 2-hour session, because 9:30 to 11:30 you gave this test. So the learnings are going to be very important. In some questions, I will also be sharing the learnings as well. Okay, so that is also there. So attempt learnings. And the third thing, okay, that you also get to know, in some cases will be certain value addition. Right? Some topics, for example, what is the extra thing that you get to know? You will also get it here. So if you want, you can make running notes or you can add it to those respective topics. Okay? That is the first thing I want to tell you. Based on this, we will have a discussion. In the questions that are easy to moderate, I will also tell you. Some questions which are difficult, okay, I will also tell you, because some questions will be difficult when you attempt the exam. So please don't go with the mindset that when you see the paper, you will know each and every question. Despite your best of efforts, even if you ask somebody who's given the exam, but you will see that people will not be able to answer exactly more than 35 odd questions. In many questions, you have to apply a certain logic. And in this paper also, we'll see in some questions where maybe the question seems very difficult at the outset, but if we apply our mind, we may be able to solve it. Okay, that is there. Now, before I start, a very important, in fact, an announcement only for all of you. Today, you had the very first All India mock test. And just after this, people are asking, sir, when is the date for test number 2? Okay, I will write it here, and even after the session, I'll again tell you. Your All India mock test 2, which of course covers both GS as well as CSAT, will be on the 22nd of March 2026, which means it is 1 month away. So if you put your efforts again in the right direction, right, better revision, better consolidation of sources, you will still see an improvement in your preparation. I hope till this part is clear, right? See, answer key, please do not worry, answer key मिलेगी आपको, ठीक है? First we will just go through the session and after that you will get your answer key, right? That is what I've already told you. So answer key, you will definitely get it, don't worry at all. We will be sharing the answer key, right? All right. So that said, let us start now one by one. The questions, I hope till here everybody is sorted, you have settled down, right? Now, the format will be, if there is any particular question which you think that you want to perhaps give your value addition or any of the inputs that you have, you will mention the question number. Let's say it's question number 1 and anything that you want to add, let's say, okay? Let's say you have a difference of opinion, or let's say if you want to add some other context to that question, you are more than welcome. So here the live chat is directly in front of me. So I also want to make the session very participative, right? Second, if you're watching this along with me live, so whatever question is in front of you, if you have attempted in the exam, you will write the answer. If you did not attempt, you can even write question 1 unattempted, okay? So that let's say you left five questions, 10 questions, 15 questions, you will also have an idea about that question, okay? I hope that part also is sorted, okay? Chalo, start karte hain. Let's try to discuss these questions one by one, okay? There will be some questions in which I will have to give some additional explanation. I'll also do that, okay? So don't worry on that front. Shuru karte hain. Now, one thing is, and this is also one important takeaway, that whenever you open the paper, right, it can be a good day when you get the questions from your strength area. In fact, the initial questions are from economy as well as current affairs and even from science and tech, the initial questions. This distribution can change anytime depending of course on the set. So किसी भी preconceived notion से नहीं जाइएगा. You will not go with any preconceived notions, okay? Take one question at a time, solve it to its merit. If for example the initial questions seem very difficult for you, you can start with question number 26 or question number 51, or from the middle you want to start, you can do that. So how you approach the paper is also very important, okay? That you have to maintain your confidence, because it may happen the initial 5 or 10 questions you don't know anything at all. But if you approach these questions maybe after 30 minutes, you still will be able to address them better. I hope we are able to understand these. These again small tidbits are also very important for the people, let's say, who are going to attempt the exam for the very first time. So you should also know some of the important takeaways that is there, right? So I'll start now one by one. The very first question, very much in the news, the mother of all trade deals, that is being touted as, how many of the following agriculture sector has India deliberately kept, main keyword is outside, market access commitments of European Union under the FTA. Of course, the FTA here means the free trade agreement, okay? We've been given 4 options and you have to select what is the correct option. The question is asking us which has been kept outside, okay? So in this case, all these strategic sensitive sectors from the agriculture perspective have been kept outside. They are outside, which means even dairy, cereals, poultry, soy meal, all these are outside. The answer for the first question is all the 4 are outside. And if we again look at the document, okay, harvesting beyond growth, etc. So there is a whole file. In this you will find there are strategic safeguards for very important sensitive sectors which have been, we have asked you, dairy, cereals, poultry, soy meal, certain fruits, etc., vegetables. So they have been kept outside the purview. That is the overall takeaway, okay? Because if you get a question from this topic, the question can be economic based, which sectors are inside, which sectors are outside. Although we know majority of the things, in fact automobiles, etc., in the news, you will have a gradual process of how this is going to follow, right? So this is the whole idea behind this part, right? So India has deliberately kept all these. Why? These are very strategic and these are sensitive sectors. These are beyond, or these are outside the market access commitments to the European Union's free trade agreement. That is the first question. Your answer becomes B, okay, D, okay? If anybody attempted this question, just mention question number 1, okay? Write question number 1, and of course, if you attempted it, not attempted it, so again, I'll have an idea how much questions have been attempted, etc., etc. So that was going to give us an idea, okay? That is there. All right. Let's now move. Now, in last year's All India Open Mock Test, we had a question from economy section, and in which we had asked you a question just like this. And when that paper had come, people had said, sir, why are you asking formula based questions? But in the actual exam of 2025 prelims, if you see, you had a similar question. So even in this paper, there are certain unconventional questions which are only for their practice and which are only there so that you know what kind of questions can be asked from the topic. Okay, now this is a relatively easy question. I'll also just solve it with you. Okay, now in a financial year, let's see, the gross domestic product is given rupees 1 lakh crore. This is gross domestic product. Net factor income from abroad is also given 10,000 crores. Now depreciation is mentioned. This is 1,000 crores. Then the government is providing a subsidy of 15,000 crores, and indirect taxes are also mentioned, that is to the tune of 20,000 crores. Right now, three statements are mentioned. One by one we'll go through. Gross national product is mentioned, is 90,000 crores. The net national product at market price, this is also mentioned. This is 1,09,000 crores. Okay, and similarly we have been also mentioned another fact, right? That is net national product at factor cost. How can you solve this question if you know how to calculate it? The question is saying gross. Okay, just, and here the gross GDP is mentioned and the gross national product you have to calculate. Okay, so what you need to know, you will take the GDP and you will add the net factor income from abroad. So 1 lakh crore and 10,000 crore, how much this becomes? 1.10 lakh crores. How much is given in the answer? This becomes wrong. It is not 90,000 crores. What should be the answer? If you just simply add, you have to add 1 lakh crores and you have to add 10,000 crores, you get your answer. Okay, so the very first statement becomes wrong. Let's now go to the second statement. Okay, here we are saying net national product at market price, NNP. We have to even just a second. We have to calculate this NNP at the market price. Okay, now here what we have to do, we already know what is the GNP, which we calculated just now. How much is the GNP? 1.10 lakh crores. I need to, it is saying NNP at market cost, I just need to decrease the depreciation. Okay, so 1.09 lakh crore is what I get. So I had already 1.10 lakh crore. If I minus the depreciation, I get the net this product at market price. This is equally correct. Now I go to the third statement, net national product, and I have to calculate at factor cost. Again, if you read your NCERT carefully, the conversion of this net national product factor cost, how you calculate it, okay, from the market price is given. So what you need to know, the NNP at market price, we need to know, number one, the very first thing, and second, I need to subtract the net indirect tax. This has to be subtracted. Okay, now the net market price, the net national product at market price is already clear to me, 1.09. This is already mentioned here, and I need to subtract the net indirect. Okay, so here how to calculate the indirect? So one, you have subsidy available and you have overall indirect taxes. Okay, so you have 20,000 crore, and if you subtract 15,000 crore, how much do you get? You get 5,000 crores. So I have to subtract the net indirect cost. Okay, so the question again, net national product at factor cost is what? Net national product at market price minus the net indirect tax. So I have to subtract 5,000 crore here. How much would I get? I will get 1.04 lakh crore. Is this the same? It is not the same. Okay, so in this question, when we read about the national income accounting, okay, the very basic aspects, this is what we get to know. So this question is a direct application of whatever you read in the national income accounting aspect. So the question is asking which of the following statement is correct. Only second statement is correct. Statement 1 was wrong and even statement 3 was wrong. I hope till here we are able to understand. And again, UPSC, the 2025 exam has told that if you just read about economy, only the definitions, that is not going to help you. Not only the definitions, they can even ask you basic deficits. The budget is out and we have asked you questions on trends from the budget also. Okay, all these things become very important and foundational in your understanding of economy. This for me should not have been a difficult question, but of course, if you have just crammed these terms and if you're not able to, let's say, apply your mind just on the exam, then you may find it difficult. Otherwise, everything that you need is already in front of you. This could have been done. Okay, that is there. So question number 2, the answer becomes 2 only. Okay, and the people, let's say, whosoever have left a question, okay, in these kind of questions, you now just have to see what is your learning and what is your takeaway. ठीक है, अगर कोई क्वेश्चन हमने छोड़ा है, if you have left any question, we will now try to improve it. Okay, I hope that part is clear. Now, let's start with question number 3. Okay, now the question we see one by one. The very first question is, when income elasticity of demand is less than 0, the demand decreases as income rises, the very first statement. Second, if the income rises by 10%, okay, and then the mention is the demand for the project increases by 20%, that is more than that, it indicates that the product is a luxury good. And for the food and utilities, the demand grows slower than income. Okay, the concept here, what is explained to you, is elasticity of demand. Okay, now elasticity of demand can be, for example, has been mentioned, can be less than 0 also, can be greater than 1 also. Okay, and can also be in between this. So the very first statement, when the income elasticity of the demand is less than 0, okay, that means even if your income is rising, it is continuously increasing, the demand is going to decrease. Okay, is that correct? Yes, that is absolutely correct. Okay, so here if I talk about, let's say if I take an example, okay, so the goods, for example, you have the goods can be classified into certain different types. Okay, so for example, if your EOD is greater than 1, okay, so here few cases I'll take. One is, let's say elasticity is greater than 1, it can be a luxury good. It can also be, if it is less, it can be a necessity good. And if it is less than even 0, the product here can also be a inferior good. It can be an inferior good, right? And here this yield, how do I get to know the yield? The yield I am able to understand if I have percentage, here means change, so change of demand. If the demand is changing with respect to what happens to the income. Okay, so two things are mentioned here. So one is change in income and second is the change in demand. All right, both things are mentioned here. Now, if the demand is changing, right, like we've seen, but the income and this variation you have to understand. So three possible cases can be there. The first statement says when the demand, the elasticity of the demand is less than 0, so that means the demand is increasing. Okay, whereas the income is rising but nothing much happens to that, right? So here you can think about anything like a public transport. Okay, so the demand decreases overall, right, as if the income increases. So that is there. Second question, if the income increases by 10% and the demand of the product increases by more than that, okay, so that means here it will fall in this category. EOD is more than 1. If you divide it, let's say here the demand increases by 20% and income increases by 10. What is this? 2, right? So here what it means, it indicates, yes, that this is a luxury good. In the luxury good, what would happen? That even if the income increases by a small fraction, overall the demand for the product increases by a large fraction. That simply becomes a luxury good. That is also correct. Third statement, for food and utilities, the demand grows slower than income. Ab dekho, food and utilities, everybody, right, these are basically what? These are necessity. You have to have them. Okay, so even if you have a lot of disposable income also, right, you are going to consume it only to the level that is necessary. So that simply means the demand overall grows slower than the income. So in this question, almost all the three cases have been covered. All the three statements in this case are correct, right? Again, the concept idea is related to the elasticity of the demand. Okay, I hope that part you are able to understand, right? So income elasticity, etc., is less than 0. The demand decreases as the income increases. So that is the first major part that you get to understand. All right. Now another question. Again, whenever you read about the money market and in many cases the instruments that are there, Some of the questions have already appeared in the PYQs of UPSC that you will have a look at. Okay, so one by one. So cash management bill. Okay, short-term debt securities. Short-term, basically, how many days? This is correct. And does this qualify for a ready forward facility? This is also correct. Okay, so cash management bill is going to address both these components. Yes. Next, both certificate of deposit as well as the commercial paper, both of them happen to be unsecured. That is correct. However, when I look at certificate, can it be withdrawn prematurely? This is a very important aspect. Yes, this can be withdrawn prematurely. Correct. Commercial paper, if you look at it, PSUs can issue it to raise money in the money market. Main question you have to understand whether this can be used for this aspect. This is also correct. Okay, so this can be used by this. Okay, and overall, again, commercial paper, main, if you look at the tenure, okay, main thing is it is then unsecured. Okay, it is unsecured, right? And from 7 days, okay, from roughly to 1 year, this is going to be there, right? So in this question, if you see, first, even this part type is also correctly matched and the description is also correctly matched. So what is the answer to this question? All the 3 statements here are correctly matched. So for question number 4, the answer becomes D. Okay. So in this question, our answer becomes D. So this should not have been very difficult. Another question that has sometimes been seen in some of the aspects is MPC. Question number 5, Monetary Policy Committee. Let's have a look at it. Now, what is the core role of Monetary Policy Committee? Again, we know inflation targeting. Okay, that is one major aspect why this was created. Now, members other than ex officio members of MPC generally hold office for a period of 4 years. Correct? This is correct. MPC is required to have at least 4 meetings. This is actually true in a year, in which each member has at least 1 vote. This is also true. And we also know the casting overall vote is available with the head of the MPC here, the RBI governor, overall having the casting vote. Okay. And the last statement, in case of the failure to maintain inflation target. Now, read the question carefully. The MPC is required by the RBI Act to send a report to the central government. This is not true. Who is required? The RBI is required by the Act to send a report to the central government. So we have to read this carefully. The question is saying which of the following is not correct here. So of course there is only one statement which is not correct. I hope we are able to follow till here, right? Which statement is not correct? There is only one statement which happens to be 3, but of course the statement is saying, so here the answer becomes A, only one. Right? So here your takeaway is RBI is actually doing this, right? Not the other ones. So I hope this should not have been a very difficult question. Monetary Policy Committee, you read all of this under the banking topic, right? And the main role which the Monetary Policy Committee is to have. Okay, this is question number 5. Now, this again should not have been a very difficult question. The question is saying how many of the will be observed if RBI starts to inject liquidity through OMO, open market operations. Just what are OMO? In OMOs, the RBI can also buy the government securities. It can also sell the government securities. Okay. In this case, it is saying it is injecting liquidity. Okay. How would it inject the liquidity? Of course, when it is buying these government securities, that will also inject money in the market, right? Now, what will be observed in this case? Will it lead to increase in the monetary base? Of course. Okay. And when you see the term monetary base, also you should try to recall what is high powered money, M0, all of that, right? But this is absolutely correct. Would it lead to increase in the money supply? Yes, this is also going to follow. The money supply is also going to increase, right? Now, increase in the seigniorage of the RBI. Now, this term, if in fact, if you see the paper of 2025 was also asked. Now, when this money supply or the monetary base is also going to increase, RBI is also going to earn because of the seigniorage as well. So not only the money supply will increase, but even the seigniorage, which again, if you see related to the printing of the currency, is also going to increase. So in this question, which of the following will be observed? All the 3. So you will have increase in the monetary base, increase in the money supply, as well as the increase in the seigniorage of RBI. All the 3 will happen here if the RBI starts to inject liquidity through the OMO. OMO here means the open market operations. All the three is going to happen. Okay. So this is your question number 6 that we have just had a look at. Right. Now let's move ahead. Now, with respect to the national sports policy, now you may have read about it, you may have not read about it. Let's see how to tackle these questions. Consider the following statements. It aims to build a sport ecosystem covering grassroots, okay, to elite performance with a focus on 2036 Olympics, okay. It encourages private sector participation mainly through mechanisms like the PPP, public-private partnerships, and CSR, corporate social responsibility, right? And last, it mandates compulsory reservations for sports person in all central government jobs. Now, if you have not even read the policy and if you just see the statement number 3 is a very extreme statement, okay. The policy in general is going to be a guiding light, a guiding document which will try to improve upon how to improve the performance, okay. So here, if I remove the statement number 3, I directly get the answer. The answer is 1 and 2. So now we get to know that it encourages private sector participation. That is true. And main idea is simply to create a sports ecosystem for having a better performance overall. Okay. So here that is also a part, right? So even this part we can again have a look at, right? So that is one. Now, if I move to the next part, right? Now, I think there is one question also by that does OMO involve printing of new money? See here, please understand. Let's go to that question also. If somebody also has a doubt in this concept, right? The doubt that is asked is, does it involve printing new money? See, please understand. Number one, see, if RBI is going to inject, what is RBI going to do? RBI is going to purchase government security. Okay. And when it's going to purchase the security, RBI will pay for them, right? How will it pay for them? Again, new currency, okay, or the credit reserve accounts, they will be used, okay. Now this base money, whatever is present, okay, or the new currency that etc is getting printed, that is going to be used, and from that the interest is going to be eventually generated, okay. So one is the cost of printing it, and second is the interest that you are getting out of it. Of course, the difference overall is also going to be seen in the Stenoraj of RBI. Okay, so directly if you just think about the government security aspect, then of course you can think of 1 and 2, but if you go one step beyond, then we can also say how it will increase the Stenoraj of RBI. Okay, I hope now it is even more clear, right? Because ultimately it is going to be transferred, right? The difference between the creation of new currency as well as the overall interest gain from this aspect, okay, that is there. Now, let's see, NATO has been asked even in the past. If you look at the papers, and NATO, of course, since the Russia-Ukraine conflict is there, every year you'll find NATO in news, okay. Now, I just want to ask from you, how many countries right now, as of now, are members of NATO? Okay, just try to write the number if you know it. If you do not know it, please try to look it up. Now, in this question, which country is a member of NATO? Fine. And second, is also in the Arctic Circle. Okay, it has to satisfy two conditions, not one. But if you look at these countries, and if you have maybe gone through your current affairs, one country out of here, right, out of the ones which I mentioned, had recently got the membership of NATO. And when I say recent, it is not that recent, but the year is 2024. Okay, so here basically in 2024, Sweden had actually got the membership of NATO. Fine. Now, but does that help me solve the question? I need to know both the aspect, whether the countries which are there are part of Arctic Circle, number one, and second, it has to be a member of NATO. Now here, all the 4 countries, first of all, are members of NATO. Okay, so Norway, Sweden, and Finland, they were member of NATO way before. It is Norway, Canada, and Finland, they were members before. It is Sweden only which has recently gotten membership. Pehli cheez, right? Second, a part of the countries lies within the Arctic Circle. So again, if I look at Sweden, or if I look at Finland, which was again asked to us, or if I look at Canada, okay, and again if I look at Norway, okay, Norway, Sweden, all. So all these 4 are also related to the Arctic Circle, and all these 4 are also member of NATO. Fine. So your answer becomes D, all the 4 countries satisfy both the 2 conditions. Okay, all the 2 countries satisfy both the 2 conditions. Norway, Canada, Sweden, Finland. Now, in this question, again, what I would want that you prepare simply a list of the countries from the Arctic Circle. In environment, we read about Arctic amplification. So if they want to ask you from an IR based lens, they will ask you what is Arctic Circle. NATO also is in news. Okay, so somebody is given the right answer, 32, good. Okay, and when you read NATO, also be aware about the Article 5. All right, so that's good. Now, let's move ahead. This is question number 8. Now, this is also an interesting question. Okay, lithium-ion batteries, almost since a couple of years, this is in news. And here we have asked you a very simple conceptual aspect. Let's have a look at it. Lithium-ion batteries are widely preferred for EVs as they support longer driving range, right? Now, the catch is going to be either in statement 1 or in statement 2 or maybe in none of them. Lithium-ion batteries have higher energy density, enabling them to store energy, more energy relative to the weight. This is absolutely true. But is this true? Yes, it is. Does this help you explain statement number 1? Yes. Why? If they have high energy density, so if they are moving, they are overall able to pack in more energy. That more energy is going to be used in driving, right? So high energy density helps them to store more energy relative, absolutely true. Now, third statement, lithium-ion batteries exhibit a low self-discharge. Low self-discharge is related to when the battery or overall thing is idle, when it is not moving. It simply means when something is not moving, it does not discharge much energy if it is not moving. Here we are looking at that when we are talking of longer driving range, something that is in motion. So the third statement, while it is true that it helps them to retain charge for a longer period when it is not in use, so that they are not discharging it, but it does not help me explain the specific component that was asked, longer driving range. In the longer driving range, why do I use lithium-ion batteries? Is because they have higher energy density. That is the main aspect that we need to know. Okay, so again, we are not saying statement 3 is wrong, but the statement 3, even though it is correct, it does not help me answer statement number 1. This is the catch in the question that you are seeing in question number 9. Okay, so the main point to understand here is both the statements are correct, but only one of them explains the statement number 1. This is question number 9. So this is a nuance. Even in the exam you can be asked, right? And now you also know that low self-discharge rate is only helpful overall to help you that when something is not in use, it does not discharge, okay, as faster. But main thing is what helps the EVs to run longer range is simply the high energy density. I hope that part is clear. Now let's have a look at Majorana particles. If you see the paper in 2025, there was a very specific question because Microsoft had developed this Majorana chip, if you recall. Now just a more let's say conceptual question has been asked on this front. Okay, now let's have a look at. If you basically just understand the main concept related to Majorana, you will be able to answer this question. We've had many articles, and in many questions we've also attached the article or the source or some of the inspiration behind that question. Now let's have a look at the Majorana particle. A Majorana particle is identical to its anti-particle. This is also one of the main defining part of a Majorana particle. It is identical to its anti-particle, right? Now, if it is identical to its anti-particle, the second statement says they necessarily carry a positive electric charge, enabling easy detection. In fact, this whole statement is incorrect. Okay, the point is, if a particle also has its antiparticle, it then becomes essentially neutral, and because of that, its detection is not very easy. It is saying it is having easy detection. No, it is not easy to detect it, not at all. So second statement becomes wrong. Now they are considered promising from quantum computing. Even if you knew Microsoft and Majorana, we could have gotten it. Basic for topological qubits. We know in quantum computing, instead of bits, we use qubits. Bits can be either 0 and 1. Here it can be both simultaneously. Okay, they are inherently resistant to decoherence and noise, which is why it makes this as a very prominent particular choice. Okay. Now, when you revise these topics, in fact, in our bootcamp classes, you will see that even basic terms like what is a fermion, which is mentioned here, okay, or what is a boson, all the basics of particle physics, you can also cover it. And again, sometimes people again we will be asking that how to cover any part of prelims that you have not done. Again, you can, many of our demo videos of the subjects of prelims are already there. In case somebody wants to do it comprehensively, you can always cover it through the prelims boot camp. Okay, right. So here, what is the correct answer? There is only one wrong statement. The answer is only 2. Okay, but to help you explain this fermion, okay, or other basic concepts which you do not know, please revise your basics. In case you have not done it, I've already told you, you can cover it through boot camp. All right, that is there. Now, let us see other questions now. All right. Now, let's see question number 11. The United Nations designated 2025 as the International Year of Quantum Computing. All right. And see, here, this statement is absolutely correct. This was designated as the International Year of Quantum Computing. Second, the year 2025 marks 100 years since Erwin Schrödinger proposed uncertainty principle, a key concept of quantum mechanics. The main issue is it was Heisenberg, right? So now you see 2 back-to-back almost questions related to the concepts of quantum computing. The first statement is absolutely correct. However, the second statement, 100 years is true, but who has proposed it and who had proposed it? It was Heisenberg. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, okay, was there. With Schrödinger, you hear more about Schrödinger's wave equation, etc. So the correct answer to this question is, the moment statement 2 becomes incorrect, your answer becomes C. Statement 1 is correct and statement 2 is incorrect. All right. So that is one. Okay. See, third point here is they are very promising for quantum computing because of these particles only, that they are identical to its antiparticle, and this is why they're also very useful in quantum computing. Okay. The term here qubit simply means they can exist as 0 and 1, not as bits but as qubits. So Majorana particles are very important. They can shield the quantum computers from noise. Why? Because they are resistant to noise and decoherence. All right. So that is the whole aspect, and that is why they are very much prominent in quantum computing and the other applications of quantum computing. That is why we are using them. Okay. Right. And additional, just after the session also, some explanation, some additional extra points if you want to read, you can also read from the PDF. Here I just want to give you a broad overview of how to solve questions, and again just have a basic understanding around these parts. Right. Now, RNA silencing, again if you look at least some years questions paper, this theme is important, and not why also because of the developments around RNA silencing. Okay. Now, the question is simply asking what is incorrect. So I will want you to look at, there are many questions we've asked you what is incorrect. Please read very carefully. Okay. Ab dekho. It can regulate gene expression without altering the gene sequence. Yes, that is why it is very prominent. It involves small RNA molecules that recognize specific mRNA sequence. Yes. It always results in permanent, two things are there, always results in permanent genetic mutation. This is wrong. This is your answer. And it may completely shut down the production of a protein. This is true. But would it always result in permanent genetic mutation? This statement is not correct. This is directly where you get your answer. Okay. And main thing is, it is reversible. The moment I say it is reversible, it will not be permanent. Right. So that is one aspect. Right. And main thing is, it is affecting the gene expression, but it is not affecting the gene structure. Two different things. So the answer to RNA silencing, simply if you look at that, it always results in permanent genetic mutation. This becomes wrong. Okay. The other 3 statements here are correct. All right. In addition to this, you may also read about mRNA, microRNA, not only messenger RNA, because in that you have seen more recent developments. Okay. The Nobel Prize, etc., for medicine, etc. I'm saying mRNA, and I'm here referring to microRNA. Again, a very important aspect. Okay, so from one single question, maybe if there is a theme that is important around it, we must revise it, cover it. Okay, now let's see question number 13. In the context of transitioning towards transport fuels, which of the following combinations best explains why ethanol is getting policy support in India? You will see throughout the year many such articles related to ethanol and the things that it supports. Now let's have a look at. Renewable in nature, this is true. In fact, there's a big feedstock or of what can ultimately become ethanol. Okay, renewable in nature, yes. Significant life cycle emission reduction, even if we know this is true, right? Even second gen ethanol, you have first generation, second generation, third generation. When we read in biofuels, we know that while it does not eliminate the emissions, it helps in reduction of emissions. Second is also true. Flexibility to be used in both blended form. You see E5, E10, E15, E20. What is that? It's a blend with the conventional fuel, but it can also be used independently. This is true. Last, achievements of the national blending targets, okay, ahead of schedule. Okay, now we had the target of having a 20% blend by 2030. But this target was achieved by 2025. So even this is also there. So the transition is being done. Okay. And now this 20% target is further going to be upgraded to almost 27%. Right. So this is also there. So when you look at it, which of the following combination is explaining? All the four are telling us why this is becoming more prominent. So the answer becomes all the four. All right. Now, why are brown dwarfs able to retain lighter gases such as hydrogen and helium more effectively than planets? Okay, and we have seen again, for example, they are neither a star nor a planet and almost something in between. Okay, when we look at these brown dwarfs or brown planets. Okay, now what are these? Of course, these are celestial bodies. Okay, and main thing is, it is right, why are they able to retain lighter gases like hydrogen more effectively? Main reason is that the relatively high mass, right, it produces a very strong gravitational binding, and because of this strong gravitational binding, they're able to retain the lighter gases, okay, like the hydrogen and helium, which is also helpful in the process like nuclear fusion, okay, to help even sustain a proper source of energy. So this is there, right? Other options, you can also eliminate that their strong magnetic field prevents atmospheric escape. This is also not true. Okay. Then the continuous nuclear fusion replenishes lost gases. No, the main reason is the high mass is there, and that high mass helps in binding. Okay. So the best answer that why are these brown dwarfs able to retain the gases? Main thing is their high mass, this produces stronger gravitational binding. Okay, so that is there. Now, SpaDeX mission has been in use. Okay, now with respect to the SpaDeX mission, let's see what is it saying to us. Now, the mission aims to demonstrate rendezvous and docking capabilities between two spacecraft in the low Earth orbit. Okay, this is absolutely true. That is the whole idea. The SpaDeX mission is talking basically related to the docking capabilities, right? Communication which can happen, that is the meaning of the rendezvous, and the docking capability is true. Now, docking technology becomes necessary when multiple launches are required to accomplish a particular object, okay, a unified mission object. This is also true, right? Third statement, India became the fourth country to demonstrate satellite docking capability throughout this mission. Now, when you read space tech, you will find many times that India will be the fourth country. Generally, why? Because ahead of India, you will find US, Russia, and China to have done something. Now, in this question, let's say if they had mentioned India had become the first country, wrong, because USA, China, and Russia would have already done something like this in most cases, like, right? So here, if you look at it, all the three statements are correct. And generally speaking, this is also how certain traps are also mentioned. Okay. So one thing is what it aims to do, right? When this technology is necessary, and what is India's overall standing with respect to the technology is what has been asked in this question. Question number 15, SpaDeX mission. Okay. So I hope this part is visible and clear to you. Okay. Now let's also see here what is incorrectly matched. You have AstroSat mission, you have ExpoSat mission, okay, and you also have a particular mission, right? So here let's have a look at some of the statements here which is mentioned. Okay. Now the very first thing that we see here is AstroSat. The term that is mentioned is it is placed in low Earth orbit. This is correct. AstroSat. ExpoSat, when I say, ab dekho, here it is used for X-ray polarization, but it is saying it is first satellite in the world to do so. Here again apply your mind. Now, right, that ISRO, when it has sent ExpoSat, maybe NASA would have done this also. And by the way, NASA has already done this. So this is not the first satellite in the world to do so. This becomes wrong. Third, Venus orbiter mission designed to examine dust in Venusian atmosphere. This is true. The question is saying which of the following is incorrectly matched. Okay, incorrectly matched will only be one. Okay, so in this particular question, there is only one statement that is incorrectly matched. All right. So I hope this part we'll be able to understand. Okay, okay, okay. I think there is a doubt also with the spacecraft. See, when we say the successful satellite docking that is there for the SpaDeX mission, okay, that is absolutely true. Now, it is also seen in the case of two small spacecraft also. We have seen this docking capability even in the case of the two small scale. The one was this SDX-1 chaser and one was the target. So even when the statement the spacecraft is also mentioned, then it is also not entirely wrong. So normally you see that is in the case of satellites, but even in case of small spacecraft, that has been seen. This is overall with the SpaDeX mission. That is why the statement 1 is also correct. Okay, I hope this is the doubt that I see in the live comment section. This part, now you know, AstroSat, ExpoSat, Venus orbiter mission. Okay, in the past even Mars orbiter mission, MOM, they've also asked you. Okay, so 16 May, the answer becomes only one. I hope this part is clear, right? Now, the AI summit is in news. We have a question on Bulbul V3. It's an AI model by Sarvam AI. This is also there in the news. Okay. Now, let's have a look at this Sarvam AI. A couple of statements are mentioned here, right? And even this is a kind of question, even if you don't know much about it, you will still be able to solve it. Okay. It's a text-to-speech model designed to generate natural speech optimized for Indian accents. True. Capable of handling code switching as well as regional linguistic variation. Let's say you don't know this statement. Let's read the third statement. It currently offers professional quality voices across all 22 scheduled languages of India. Of course, see, if there are 22 scheduled languages, it will take time to deploy. Okay. So initially it will be available to only a limited set of languages, right? The technology deployment over a period of time will happen. Okay. So whenever you see that it is available in all the scheduled languages, etc., be extra careful. In this statement, this is wrong, and the statement, the moment says currently offers, no, it does not. These three become wrong because they have third. The answer becomes 1 and 2. So it is capable of handling code switching, yes, as well as regional linguistic variations, true. And text-to-speech model designed to generate natural speech, it is also true. Okay. So 17, the answer becomes A. Okay. Now, Spina bifida, maybe you are not at all aware about it. Okay, there was an extensive full page, almost half-page article in the Hindu and also other newspapers. But let us see, there will be certain questions like this in the exam. Okay, Spina bifida. If you know why awareness about folic acid to prevent Spina bifida must become a public health priority, and this is again a problem that you generally would see in most of the developing countries. Okay, so this is there. Now let's have a look at it. It is a congenital disorder resulting from incomplete closure of the neural tube during early fetal development. Okay, the disorder mainly involves abnormal development of the spinal cord, it is saying. And third is folic acid supplementation initiated after birth is the most effective strategy to prevent spina bifida. No, it is the preconception intake of folic acid, right? That is the most effective strategy. And again, the main issue is that there is very limited awareness related to this. And because of this, then the question is also there, right? So there is very limited awareness available. And because of that, this creates a challenge. So this statement is wrong. It is not initiated after birth. It is their preconception of birth. Then these folic acid tablets are taken to prevent spina bifida. So this becomes wrong. Statement 2 and statement number 1 is correct. So your answer here becomes only 2. Right? Spina bifida, both these two are correct. All right. I hope this part is clear, right? Okay, see, with respect to mention SpaDeX also, if you have also mentioned a point, I'll also look it up and also we'll also get it clarified. Okay, so I think we will again see if there is any other issue with that. Okay, now question number 19. This is a one-liner. If you know it, excellent. If you don't know it, then it becomes very difficult. Why? Because the chances of getting wrong are more. Now, 3 by 35 initiative was launched by WHO. Yes. And what is it about? Okay. Now, what is this 3 and what is this 35? The 3 is tobacco, alcohol, sugary drinks, right? You want to increase the health taxes to 50% by which year? 35. So 35 is 2035. 3 we have already just seen, tobacco, alcohol and sugary drinks. And the idea is to have almost a 50% hike. This is a single one-liner kind of a question. If you know it, excellent. If you don't know it and if you've still attempted it and gotten it wrong, then you also need to know which kind of question should you attempt and should you leave. Okay. So here the answer here is B, 3 by 35. Now, with respect to Bharat small reactors, BSR, mentioned in the budget, okay, consider the following statements. They are based on the pressurized heavy water reactor technology. All right. Now, private entities will be responsible for reactor design and operation. This is where the catch is and this is where this is wrong. The reactor design and operation will again be under the government. You have your NPCIL who will be doing it and leading it. Okay. So this becomes wrong. The other secondary or let's say tertiary kind of work can be taken up by the private entities, but the core reactor design and operation is still going to be taken up. Okay. So this becomes wrong. All right. The entity etc. is going to be with NPCIL. Okay. So this is your Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited. So this is there, right? So the moment you remove statement 2 in these kind of questions, okay, you get your answer 1 and 3, which means they are intended to function as captive power plants for energy intensive industries. Okay. These are your Bharat small reactors. Right. So small modular reactors, SMR, how they operate, how efficient they are, etc., are a topic which is very much in the news, which has been asked and tested. This is a relatively easier question. What is the technology and etc. But again, like I've told you, if you want to read this up in more detail, okay, then of course you can look it up as well. So that should not be a challenge. All right. Now we will see some questions now on polity. These questions, some of them will be challenging you. Okay. So that is again, we'll try to see what is the beauty behind some questions. Now, the Constitution of India lays down the principles of UCC as fundamental in the governance of the country, but only for citizens of India. For this statement to be true, both things have to happen. The Constitution of India lays down UCC. Now, this is mentioned in Article 44. Of course, it is a DPSP, and DPSP, if you read Article 37 of DPSP, it says that DPSPs are fundamental to the governance of the country. Okay. So in that sense, this is true. And overall, even if you read the overall last line as well, okay, this part also is true. Okay. That UCC is there and UCC is overall for the citizens, the Uniform Civil Code. The entire statement is correct. Now, the catch actually is there in second statement, that UCC of Uttarakhand Act makes Uttarakhand the second state in independent India after Goa to implement a law on the UCC. Okay, main thing is Uttarakhand becomes the first state in independent India. Okay, and not the second one. Goa actually had inherited the civil code from the Portuguese. So Uttarakhand will be the first state in independent India to implement a law on the UCC. Okay, and this is, I think, doubt that some of you would have had. The moment you see UCC, you will think of Goa. Acha, Goa is there, and you will make it right. But this is incorrect. Now, a law on UCC shall not be applicable to the state of Nagaland unless gubernatorial, see, gubernatorial means related to governor. Governor's order has been passed to that effect after consultation with the chief minister of the state. See, nothing of this sort is needed. It is simply dependent on the state legislative assembly. So in case of Nagaland, it is the state legislative assembly. If they pass a resolution to this effect, then it is there. So there is no specific need of a gubernatorial or the order of the governor. So even this is incorrect. So what is the correct statement here? It is only statement number B. 21. The answer becomes B. It is only the statement number 1 that is going to be correct. Okay. So here you got to know about a couple of things. Okay. So keep this in mind. Right. Now, again, an interesting question. How many of the rights of the persons residing in India, okay, will be affected if the person faces exclusion from NRC, the National Register of Citizens? See, there are two terms mentioned in the question. One is NRC and one is NPR. And the catch lies in these two statements, that what is one and what is the other one. So again, if you read the question, that if somebody is residing in India, okay, and for example, they are excluded from the NRC, right? If that person has been excluded from the NRC, right? So who is going to be impacted? What rights are going to be impacted? See, NRC, the main idea is that whosoever is living, you want to ascertain whether that person is the citizen or not. So indirectly, the question wants to ask you which rights are there with respect to the citizen. So do they have a right to vote? Yes, they have a right to vote. Okay. In fact, if you again recall your fundamental rights, certain fundamental rights are only there for the citizen, if you recall. Okay. And what are those rights there which are there only for the citizen? (15, 16, 19, 29, 30) only for the citizen. Now, again read the question. How many of these rights residing will be affected if you are excluded from NRC? If you are excluded from NRC, which means you are not a citizen, which rights will be impacted? So rights which are there to the citizen will be impacted. So will the right to vote be impacted? Yes, this will be impacted. Will the right to freedom of speech and expression? This is Article 19. This will be impacted. Right to access shops and public restaurants. This again, if you read our Article 15, one cannot be discriminated on. So it can be gender, religion, race, caste, okay, or maybe the place of birth. So even this aspect is there. So the 1, 3 and 4 will be impacted, true. But if you look at right to enrollment in NPR, National Population Register, please understand the National Population Register is not the same as the National Register of Citizens. This is the main catch, okay, because here you have the list of the usual residents. We are not saying citizens. So there is a difference between a resident, an ordinary resident, as well as a citizen. So only this one will not be impacted. The other 3 are going to be impacted. So now if you look at the question 22, your answer becomes only 3. This is the main catch. This is what I wanted to explain as well. So when you look at this statement, your answer ultimately to 22, it is only 3. All right. So right to vote will be impacted, freedom of speech will be impacted, access shops and public restaurants will be impacted, right? Okay. Now, this is interesting. This is a doctrine that we are looking into. While a constitution may grant legislature the power to amend its provisions, the power is not absolute. The moment you think of it, maybe in your mind you think of doctrine of basic structure, at least you're not thinking wrong. Now, it asserts certain essential features, rule of law, separation of powers, fundamental rights. They are so integral to the constitution that they cannot be abrogated or altered, even if the constitution does not explicitly prohibit the changes. Okay. This ensures preservation of constitution's core philosophy, etc. Now, what is the answer to this question? Is it the doctrine of checks and balances? No. Is it incidental or ancillary powers? No. Is it pith and substance? No. Main thing is, it is the doctrine of implied limitation. Even if you just read these doctrines carefully, the implied limitation is best answered through this. It is implied, it is not even explicit, right? That if I look into the powers which are there with the legislature, these powers are not absolute. There are certain limitations, which is the meaning of implied limitation. Okay. Now, there is a mention of doctrine of pith and substance. Okay. The doctrine of pith and substance is simply saying, for example, the idea I'll just tell you that, for example, a law has been created. Okay. And the overall substance or the objective behind the law is correct. Right. Now, just that this law has violated the territory, okay, or let's say it is maybe the law was created by Maharashtra, okay, and it is somehow encroaching into maybe a part of Gujarat or maybe some other place. Just simply on that account, the law will not be held wrong. You have to look into the idea behind the law, the substance behind the law, both things, the motive and the substance overall. Then only we can pronounce on it. Whereas in this question, we are talking of the doctrine of implied limitation. Okay, I hope that part is clear. So, question number 23, the answer becomes D. The other one's doctrine of checks and balances, of course, it is not related to this. And even the incidental or ancillary powers, okay, maybe some extra powers which can be granted, is also not the true reflection of what the question wants to ask you. Okay, so that is also not correct. Now, these are relatively easy questions. 24, let's have a look at it. Shall be illegal to detain in custody a person who has been informed in writings of the ground of such arrest in a language that is not understood by that person. If you again read your article 22, in your article 22 again a lot of safeguards are already present which are mentioned. So this, it will be illegal to detain a person who has not been properly communicated in the language in which they understand. This is correct. Now article 22 clause 1, it requires that the ground of arrest must be communicated to the person before being detained in the custody. This is also correct, and this is also explaining you what is there in statement number 1. So here not much to overall explain. The answer becomes this. Both these statements are correct, and the statement 2 actually explains to us what is mentioned in statement number 1. All right. So this is there. Again, when you are revising a polity, you should cover article 20, 21, 22, and you should know the differences between the three. Okay, many times there is a confusion. Generally, you know that when you read your article 21, that life and liberty which is there to a person, it cannot be taken away except by a procedure established by law. Okay, right? And when you read procedure established by law, then you should also know the A.K. Gopalan case and the Menka Gandhi case. A.K. Gopalan case, narrow interpretation, here bigger interpretation. But the confusion generally is there with article 20 and article 22. So here, this is your article 22, a basic explanation related to your article 22 statement assertion type. Now, the Juvenile Justice Board is created under. Now, this I will tell you is a difficult question for anybody who is writing. Okay, because this, of course, is in the news. We are many juveniles, how to treat them. Governance, current affairs based question, but directly you may or you may not be knowing it, right? So there are some questions which will be difficult as we move along. I'll be telling you this is one of those difficult questions. But what is the answer to this? How to solve these kind of questions? Now, the Juvenile Justice Board in India is created now. The act is mentioned. Okay, a certain act is mentioned. So now we have to check whether this act is the one which is creating it. That is the first question that should come in my mind. Okay. Now to this question, this is actually wrong. Okay, because there is a separate Juvenile Justice Act of 2016 through which we are creating the Juvenile Justice Board. So statement 1 is wrong. Now, it is established in every district by the state governments with at least one woman as a member. This is true, but again, this is of course more factual. And same thing, it consists of a metropolitan magistrate or a judicial magistrate of the first class as its principal magistrate. This is also true. What is the correct answer? The correct answer is only 2. But again, I'm telling you, this is relatively a topic that you would have not done as well. Okay, so if you have skipped this question, all right, if you knew one statement, let's say you knew ki 100% this I have read, and if you eliminated it, then you have to choose between the two, then I can still say you can attempt that question. So there will be questions when we attempt it, some questions will be more difficult. Okay, so that is again a point. Okay, the detailed, see, the PDF explanation is going to be just shared the moment the discussion ends, so you can expect somewhere around 8 o'clock when we end it, then that will be shared with you, so do not worry. Okay, then again you can go into, and again if you have a doubt you can drop again a comment. I'll take up those questions even at the end of the discussion if time permits also, right? See, somebody is asking, even before being arrested, then there is a separate case of preventive detention. Okay, that is a different case. Okay, that in that you have very harsh, of course, let's say conditions, but whereas in other cases the grounds of the arrest, okay, second thing, you having somebody at least to have a lawyer and then to be produced before a magistrate, this is all that is mentioned in within 24 hours, of course, but that 24 hours excludes the holidays, etc. Okay, so I please make sure that is correct. Article 5 we have also seen in the class also. Article 6 we have seen many articles in the class, तो उससे भी सवाल है तो वो भी देखेंगे आगे. So that is there. Now again a question, maybe you know one or two acts but you don't know all the acts, but again you have seen even in 2025 in polity and governance at least 4 or 5 questions were difficult. We have tried to almost replicate and give you the understanding of that also. Some questions here in polity are doable, some questions are difficult again, so please do not expect that all the 15 questions will be one liners or easy. Okay, so we are going to set our expectations in the right manner. All right, अब देखते हैं. Right to Information Act, question is simply saying is not applicable to, so act is mentioned, not applicable to personal information that has no relation to any public or interest. Of course, right to information is not there for anything, right? It is anything which is not related to public activity interest can be excluded. Bilkul sahi, that is absolutely true. So RTI is not applicable in this case. Next, right of children to free and compulsory education for state aided or unaided institution, it is not applicable. Yes. Whistleblower Protection Act for SPG, right, it is not applicable to the SPG, that is also true. Okay, next or the last case is the Lokpal and the Lokayukt. Personnel under the Coast Guard Act, again it is not applicable to this. Even in the Lokpal, Lokayukt, I'll tell you, Army Act, Air Force Act, Navy Act and the Coast Guard, it is not applicable to them. Okay, the personnel under these 4 are not applicable. This is the Lokpal and the Lokayukt, which is correctly matched. In this question, all the 4 are correctly matched. Okay, now this I think should be a question you would have been able to solve. Higher domestic inflation, Indian rupee has started to depreciate. RBI has used the forex reserves to prevent the depreciation of the rupee. अब देखते हैं. Indian exports will become more competitive. नहीं, it will be the opposite. They will become less competitive if the rupee has started to depreciate. So this has to be wrong. Okay. Now, nominal exchange rate will remain the same. This is true, right? Even if this is happening, nominal exchange rate is going to be true between both the countries. This is true. However, because of inflation and because of this depreciation, the real exchange rate ये बढ़ जाएगा. The real exchange rate that you have, because see, real exchange rate, if you just look at the formula of real exchange rate, there are 2 things there. One is nominal exchange rate. Second thing is, what is the domestic price? And what is the price abroad? Okay, this is almost constant. Domestic price of the product, what we are saying, is going to increase. Let's say this has become 1.5 times, this has become 2 times, this has become 3 times. So real exchange rate, this is going to increase because the difference is that it is divided from domestic to abroad. Okay, and because the rupee is depreciating, you can think of that if the rupee is depreciating, earlier $1 let's say was equal to 180 rupees. Now this $1 will become 100 at 120 rupees. Okay. So because of that, the domestic price also will increase. Okay. So limited rupee will now be able to buy the same amount. That is, more money, more rupees you are needed to buy something outside. So domestic price main cheez hai, increase ho ja raha hai. The domestic price is increasing. Abroad price, main thing is because of this the real exchange rate will increase. So here your answer becomes 2 and 3 only. Right? The nominal exchange rate will nearly remain the same, but main thing is real exchange rate will increase. Okay, so that is the answer to this question. Now, 28 question. You will get questions like this, and we have seen questions like this. Now, with reference to the union budget, up directly you may say, sir, I have not read the budget. Okay, no issues. Let's see this question. We are seeing India's fiscal profile, and in this question, two things are asked. Indirect tax as a percentage of GDP, direct tax as a percentage of GDP. We are asking you two things. What is the trend? Okay, so don't exactly cram the facts. I will tell you, the moment you see in economy something, if they've mentioned last decade means for the 10 years, you will not be seeing a uniform trend. One very obvious reason is COVID-19. Okay? And let's first see this through graph. This is your trend. Ab dekho. Let's see first yellow. Yellow is your direct taxes. Okay. If I just draw the line, decrease, increase, roughly like this. So there is a dip in 2019-20. There's a dip again in 2020-2021. Okay. And this is how the trend is there for a 10-year period, if I'm saying. If I look at indirect taxes, which are there in green, again, dip, increase, again 5.5, but there's a dip. In the recent years also there's a dip. Okay, there is 5%, then again decrease, 4.6, again decrease, 4.3, again decrease. So one, continuous, so it has not happened for 10 years. Even in indirect taxes, nothing is consistent even for 5 years. Okay, whereas only for direct taxes, 6, 6.2, 6.5, 6.7, 6.8, this is the only increasing aspect. If UPSC wants to go in this micro detail. But overall, if you are getting trends for a 10-year period, more often than not, you will not find a continuous trend in any case. That is the overall takeaway. Okay? So in this question, what is the takeaway? What are we able to understand? What is correct? Both the statements are incorrect. Okay, even if you've not read the budget, of course, I would want you to at least be aware about the budget and some of its basic numbers and details. But these kind of questions can also be understood if you understand how these data and facts work. Okay, 28. Now, which will most likely lead to a higher credit growth in the Indian banking sector? The banking sector will lead to a high credit growth. Let's have a look at it. Reduction in the capital adequacy ratio, CAR, by the RBI. The moment CAR will reduce capital adequacy ratio, that is the amount of money or minimum amount that the banks have to keep. The moment the CAR is less, the available money with the banks will be more. Okay, and if the money available is more, they can lend it to the private sector. Ho sakta hai? Yes. If there's a cut in the policy rate by the RBI, if there's a cut, again what this will lead to? More money being available, which can again lead to money multiplier also. This can help. Now, increase in the interest rates offered by small savings scheme. Now, what will happen? People will now try to put more money in their respective banks or in these respective saving schemes. So now this will not lead to increased credit growth. Last, if there is an improvement in the macroeconomic, let's say, indicators of the country, okay. So let's say if the country is already doing well, indicators are well, even this can lead to a high credit growth. So what would not lead to a high credit growth, especially is the case of higher interest rates offered by small saving schemes. So your answer becomes D, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 4 only. You can eliminate third. If these interest rates offered are increased, people now have more incentives to put their money in the bank as opposed to the higher credit growth. Okay, so I hope that part you are able to Understand, right? So यहाँ पे in this case the credit growth will decrease. 30 question is again, which is the most conducive way to raising the general level of the prices in an economy? If you want to raise the general level of prices, okay, yeah, you have two things. You have a monetary policy, you have a fiscal policy. Okay, if there's a loose monetary policy, it is easier to spend money. Okay, both let's say for the individual as well as for the corporates, etc. And if there is again a loose fiscal policy, even the government is not putting let's say enough cuts. So the government is also let's say giving some stimulus, and there is more relaxation from the account of banks also, from let's say from the RBI, from both. So be the RBI or the government overall, this is going to lead to increase in the general level of prices. Okay, more money being available can potentially lead to inflation. So the answer here is loose monetary policy and loose fiscal policy is most conducive to raising the general level of prices. Okay, now if the fiscal policy is tight, or let's say the monetary policy is tight, then very limited money is available for spending, which will not be leading the overall level of prices, right? So the most conducive one will be a combination of these two, loose monetary policy as well as a loose fiscal policy. All right. Now, RRBs or even the NBFCs have been asked in the past, so let us again have a look at it. Okay. Primary agriculture credit societies are, see, you have to see two things. One, they are governed by, and second, what is the description? Okay. Now, main thing, if you have just gone through the question, the main thing is the RRB are not governed by the Banking Regulation Act of the one that is mentioned here. Okay, because these RRBs, they established under the RRB Act. Of course, they established in 1975. The RRB Act is of 1976. So it's the moment this becomes wrong, so 2 is not correct. Okay, whereas the primary agriculture credit societies, they are created by the State Cooperatives Act. This is true. Okay, and they are outside the purview of RBI. Correct. RRB mein main thing is the act is not correct. Okay, now this part is actually correct. 75% is given to the priority sectors. If you read, you will have NABARD related to the RRB, again the main entity, but the moment any of this becomes wrong, the whole statement becomes wrong. So even though this part is correct, main thing is the act mentioned is incorrect. Okay, last, the non-banking financial companies, okay, they are governed by, and which act? So here this act is correctly mentioned, RBI Act of 1934, and you often read they are not the part of the payment and the settlement systems. So even this is correct. Okay, and because they are not, so they cannot issue the checks on their own, cannot issue the checks. All right, so which of the following is correctly matched? Only 2 is correctly matched, 1 is incorrect. Which one? RRB regional rural banks. Okay, now the statement about FDI, foreign direct investment, okay, foreign currency convertible bonds and global depository receipts can be treated as FDI. Point hai yahan pe, main thing is can, because your GDR can be in forms of shares. Similarly, the foreign currency convertible bonds can also be in some cases be treated as FDI, not in all the cases. The main takeaway here is can. We'll see this also. FDI in India can happen by a foreign company in collaboration. Dekho, just to understand this, there are 3 ways in which you can have foreign direct investment, FDI. Of course, FDI means equity, it means control, decision making. So FDI, so if the foreign company is purchasing shares of an Indian company, the foreign company is having a collaboration with the Indian company, and a new company, you have a joint venture here. Even this can be a FDI. Or foreign company establishing a subsidiary or a child company in India. All the 3 would qualify as ultimately being FDI. So even this is correct. Now, the public debt of India, would that include FDI? No, though that is not FDI. Okay, the moment there is a debt, there is a borrowing, there is a liability for it to be paid back, it does not include decision making or ownership. Okay, so then this is not correct. So here, statement number 1 with certain terms and conditions, of course, and statement number 2 are going to be correct. Okay, so here your answer becomes C. These 2 would be correct on this front. All right, now let's see this question. Though external loans are considered as an erosion in nations' sovereign decision making process, it is considered better than external borrowings. Now, the statement number 1 is comparative. It means in this, a mention of external loans is there, and also you are comparing it to internal borrowings. So the statements should be addressing both the parts. Okay. Now, when we are looking at, and just of course, see, let's think of external borrowings, which in that there's a component of external loans as well, right? In that, in certain conditions, okay, of course, the downside to that is erosion of nationals' sovereign decision making process, because you're buying it directly from the outside. Okay, but we are saying it is considered better than internal borrowing. So this, first of all, statement number 1 is slightly qualified. It is not an absolute statement. Okay, kyun? Because he's saying it is considered better. We have to see why is it better in some cases. Now, statement number 2, external borrowing increases foreign exchange reserves. This is true. Okay, this is true. And in fact, if you have to borrow, there are two options. Of course, you can borrow internally, you can borrow externally. Externally, the only downside may be that it can erode the erosion is in the sovereign decision making, because now somebody else is also involved externally. The good part is your forex reserves are going to increase. Now, if there is internal borrowing, okay, let's say government is borrowing a lot from the banks. Okay, so banks had, let's say, X capital available. Now the capital available with banks is very limited, let's say X by 4 available. Now the private sector only has to use this much of money. Okay, this phenomena is known as the crowding out effect. Crowding out simply means the overall money that was available with banks, some chunk or major chunk of this has been taken up by the government, okay, for its own use. So the money available is very limited. This becomes a problem. So internal borrowings main issue is crowding out effect. Now, if the private sector does not have funds available from the bank, your money multiplier would also not be in effect. Private sector have now limited potential, or sorry, limited money available. If the money is available is limited, again, all the related activities, they'll not be putting money into the, they'll not be seeing so much demand, lesser jobs being created, lesser capital being generated, etc., etc. So internal borrowings are commonly associated with crowding out effect. Absolutely. Okay. And this is what is the crowding out effect. So here, statement 2 also explains one, yes, and statement 3 also explains one. Okay. So here the answer becomes A. Both are correct. Both of them are correct, and both of them are explaining your statement number 1. Okay. So this is overall what we get to know. That is question number 33. Now, let's have a look at it. Inverted duty structure for a product can tend to discourage, disincentivize which of the following? Okay, let's understand what is inverted duty structure. Okay, so for example, if I want to make a car, okay, in India, let's say, to make the car, I, let's say, have to import the tire, okay, the tires of the car. And on the tires, let's say the import duty is very high. Okay, and if I just see the raw material individually, the import duty on the raw material is so high that it is easier to import the whole unit as opposed to the raw material. Okay, so maybe the let's say somebody in India will find it more conducive to import the whole car, because then the cost is lesser as opposed to just buying the raw material. So main thing is, in the inverted duty structure, the raw material has a higher import duty than the finished good. Higher import duty than the finished good. Okay. Now, what this will lead to? So number 1, what will it discourage? So inverted duty structure, will it discourage domestic value addition, or the associate FDI that is going to come in, or the import of finished goods as compared to its raw material? So we have to examine 3 things here, right? So if you look at the very first statement, okay, that this is absolutely correct. Okay, it is not going to support domestic value addition. Why? Because the raw material is more expensive. So why would you want to again do things domestically? Because the cost will be higher. If the cost is higher, this product will not be competitive at all. Then associated FDI, then there will be problem in the FDI also. Okay, so why would people want to again invest if they know the raw material is more expensive than the finished good? Yes. Last is import of finished goods as compared to raw material. This is not discouraged. In fact, this will happen. If the raw material is facing higher duty as compared to the finished good, people will go for import of finished goods as compared to the raw material, yes or no? So the answer is, the question is saying which will be discouraged. Only 1 and 2. Domestic value addition is discouraged. Associated FDI is discouraged, but not the third one. The third one is import of finished goods as compared to the raw material. That is not discouraged. In fact, that is supported even more. All right. So the answer to 34th becomes A, 1 and 2 only. Now, if you read unemployment, this is again a relatively straightforward question. Which of the following is correct? You have cyclical employment, frictional, structural, and voluntary. The question is saying which of the following is correct. So which means we will see many of them incorrect. Time lag between jobs when an individual is searching for new jobs or switching between the jobs. This is not cyclical. This is frictional. Okay. Then second one, when you see it, the definition has been swapped. Result of business activities, unemployment, recession, economic growth. This becomes cyclical. Then structural employment arises when there is a mismatch between, now this is absolutely correct, mismatch between the job available and the skill of the people available in the market. So let's say we are talking of an AI summit. Everywhere people are saying AI, AI. Okay. Now you have jobs in the market, but people are not trained or skilled as per the AI. This is a structural unemployment, which means until proper skilling, reskilling initiatives are undertaken, people will not be getting the jobs even though the jobs are existing. This is an important takeaway. Last one, voluntary employment. Okay. So what is this voluntary? It's a situation simply where a person is able to and willingly work at the prevailing wage rates, okay, and does not get any work. Okay. So main thing is, what is voluntary unemployment? Here it is saying able to work and willing to wage. Main thing here is you can get a job, but you don't want a job. As simple as that. Okay. So this is not a correct one. Okay. This is the opposite. In fact, voluntary unemployment means, let's say somebody who's, let's say, preparing for an exam or who has certain degrees. Okay. So this is one. All right. So I hope this you understand. So 35, the answer becomes C. Okay, 1 second. Achha, I think somebody has a doubt. Akhil, in question number 34. Yes, I can explain that. Dekho, Akhil, किसी और को भी डाउट हो, देखो inverted duty structure. Okay, inverted duty structure may normally see what happens in a normal duty structure. What will happen? Normal duty structure may the raw material will be priced at or will have lesser taxes or duty on it. The finished good overall should have more taxes on it or the more duty on it. Inverted may the things just get inverted. Inverted may what happens? The raw material, you get a higher import duty on simply the raw material, okay, than the finished goods. Okay, so problem what happens in inverted duty structure is it is easier for me to import the entire car as opposed to buying the respective materials. Let's say I have taken some part of battery, okay, or maybe the tires, different things. All of them will attract a very high import duty. Agar maine usko bulaya, if I bring this up, first of all, I am paying high import duty. Second, if I do value addition, I have to pay the labor, okay, maybe rent cost, factory outlet, etc. So overall, whatever I make domestic value addition that I do in India, that will be very costly because the raw material is very costly. Okay. So that is why people will think, array, why to bother with such expensive raw material when I can get the finished good at a lower cost? This is the meaning of inverted duty structure. The key lies in inverted term. Inverted means twisted. It is the opposite. So main just one line definition for inverted duty structure is the raw material gets a very high import duty. Okay, that is the main takeaway as opposed to the finished good. So that is why domestic value addition will be discouraged because it will be expensive. FDI, why would somebody want to set up a factory and then the raw material is very expensive? They would not want to do that. This is a challenge. Third क्या हुआ? Import of finished goods as compared to raw material. तो ये तो import will be of finished good will be more. So this one is not getting discouraged. The question is asking what is getting discouraged. I hope that part is clear. ठीक है? Thank you, Varun. Okay, I hope 34 में, if you still have a doubt, please write your doubt. 35, I hope the answer is clear, structural employment. But now from this question, we get to understand 4 different types of, okay, the 4 different types of unemployment. This is how we'll use our knowledge. Okay, let's move ahead. Question number 36 about the Vice President of India has been in the news sometime. Okay, now let's see this question. In the case of death, removal, resignation of the Vice President, the Constitution does not provide for any method of succession apart from fresh election. Okay, so again, if we read Article 68, it simply says a fresh election is required, and the term that is mentioned is as soon as possible. If I talk about Article 68, all right, and specifically in the cases of death, resignation or removal, okay, there is no successor who will automatically take over. Okay, whereas we know the deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha is going to perform the functions of the chairman. I hope that part is clear. Second statement, let's have a look at it. An Indian citizen whose name does not feature in the electoral roll, etc., is ineligible to contest. बिल्कुल सही है. Right? Whenever we prepare president or vice president, we prepare what is the condition to become. Okay, so one obvious thing is you should be an Indian citizen, 35 years of age. Okay, and you should be qualified enough related to Rajya Sabha, and lastly the name should be there, electoral roll, all of that is there to be qualified as a member, right? So this is correct. Okay, let's see the third statement. The ballot papers used in election of office of the vice president are printed in the languages listed in the 8th schedule, right? Main thing is, see, it is only printed, only I'm saying, in 2 languages. One is Hindi, one is English, only in these 2 languages. It is not in the other languages of 8th schedule. So this becomes wrong. Now, the value of every vote cast in the vice president election is the same. Inki value, is the value same? The answer is correct. The value is same. Now, the value is different when we talk about the presidential election. Okay, in presidential election, you will again read about the value of vote of an MP or the value of vote of an MLA, etc. Again, these are topics. So this is correct. The question is saying which of the following is correct. We have seen 3 correct statements. So 36, the answer becomes C because of the 3 correct statements. Okay, this is your answer to question number 36. Now, how many do not feature nominated members, right? In which of the following we don't have nominated members? Now, if you have a legislative council, first of all, do all states in India have legislative council? Answer is no. There are some states which have it, and in those states, governor can nominate certain members. Okay. So question पूछा, how many do not feature nominated members? तो ये तो this will not be in my answer. Okay. But यहाँ पे they've asked me only 1 and only 2. So again, I have to be more precise, right? Second statement. Legislative Assembly of it is Assembly first of all, NCT Delhi. How many members it has? It has overall 70 members, and they are chosen from a direct election. Okay, do they have any nominated members? Nahi. Okay, this does not have a nominated member, so this will be in my answer. Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly. Now J&K Legislative Assembly may you have certain nominated members. Okay, so it has certain nominated members. Last, Puducherry Legislative Assembly, last one. So here also in Puducherry, overall, it has 30 seats, okay, and 5 of them are reserved, whereas certain 3 seats are overall nominated, okay. So again, the question is, it is only the the Legislative Assembly of NCT Delhi in this question, which has all the members elected. Here also you have nominated members, here also you have nominated members, here also you have nominated members. Again read the question carefully. How many of the above do not feature nominated members. Even if, so some of you will have marked the answer as only 3, but the correct answer is only 1. Only NCT of Delhi does not have any nominated members. 1 has nominated members, 2 has nominated, sorry, 1 has, इसमें भी है, इसमें भी है. Question क्या पूछ रहा है? Does not feature nominated members. Did anybody make this mistake? If you made this mistake, mention in the comments. This will again be a learning for you. Okay? I hope that part is there. Now, Russia, Ukraine, what I told you, but another war in the Middle East, in Gaza, is going on. Because of this, the term necropolitics was in news. Okay? If you see the word necro is related to death or dead. Okay? Necropolitics is simply who is allowed to live and who is allowed to survive. Right? In this case, it simply means the nation states. Okay? Sometimes through their policies, we'll see who is going to live, who may be sacrificed in the name of security, threat, or political control. So this may be a very new term for some of you. The answer to this question is this: the exercise of sovereign power to decide who may live or who must die, exposing certain populations to violence, neglect, or death. Okay, this is necropolitics, a one-liner. Okay, let's move ahead. Other statements are, even if you put your mind to it, those are not correct. All right, now this is a question that may raise certain eyebrows. Okay, but I'll tell you why. Let's see the categories of bills in Lok Sabha: constitutional amendment bill, money bill, finance bill, ordinary replacing bill. Okay, the question is saying how many of the bills can be introduced by private members of Lok Sabha. Now, you would have not had a doubt in this or even in this, but people may have a doubt in these two. The answer to this question is all the 4 bills can be introduced by private members from Lok Sabha. Right? Now, if you read any conventional source, you will generally find, especially in the case of a money bill, right? The money bill, of course, introduced by a minister, right? Now, if we go into the website, and this even you can do, the Lok Sabha, and here you can also put a filter, okay? And even for the finance bills that are mentioned, even for money bill, the point is they can be introduced by a minister. Now, when a money bill is being introduced by, they can also be introduced by a private member. Now, this bill we are not saying is getting passed. Of course, if you look at it, in 2023, 2022, there have been many bills by private member, they were introduced. All of them have lapsed. This you can understand because a money bill, Article 110, relates to the expenditure, etc., the Consolidated Fund of India, money related matters. So, can they be introduced by a private member against the conventional sources that you read? They can be introduced. That is very easily, you can see from the government website also, including who had introduced it. All of that part is already there. So, can a private member introduce a money bill? Yes. Whether that gets passed or not, because all these bills have lapsed, that is a separate case. The question is simply asking you, can it be introduced by a private member? All the 4 can be introduced by a private member. Okay. So, please, this is your answer. Okay, all the 4 can be introduced by a private member. And again, this is a simple exercise. Even you can do this. Okay, you will see the bills, put a filter of, let's say, Lok Sabha, and write a private member, and you will yourself find a whole list of the what is the status of the bill. Okay, that tells us the answer to this. Now, some of you may have still gotten that, no sir, I read in my source and this is what that was mentioned here. But in the recent times, if UPSC still wants to go beyond what is written in your conventional text, if they ask you, we directly know from the government sources what is the correct answer to that. Okay. Okay. Plea bargaining has been sometimes in the news. Let's have a look at it. It is applicable only to a criminal case and not to a civil case. This is correct. Second, it cannot be negotiated in case of an offense affecting socio-economic conditions of the country. This is also true. In fact, plea bargaining also has been in news, is that so that overall pendency of the cases, etc., some issues can directly have a verdict, etc., they can be solved. That is the idea. And a very essential part, plea bargaining. Okay. And what is the meaning of plea bargaining? It is simply an agreement that is happening in the criminal cases, and this is done in the pre-trial phase. The agreement can be done. Okay. So all the 3 are true. Okay. It is applicable only to a criminal case, true. It is there if it is cannot be negotiated if the offense is affecting socio-economic, true, and if it is executed during the pre-trial phase, even that is true. Okay, now curative petition. Okay, if you want, you can even write a very specific and very prominent case related to this. Okay, that is Rupa Ashok Hurra versus Ashok Hurra. See, let's first understand what is the idea of curative petition, right? The idea of curative petition is, for example, the Supreme Court has given, let's say, a final verdict. Okay, the question is, can even that be appealed in case of some extreme instance of a grave injustice being done, or if the due process may have not been fully be applied? Okay, so curative petition main thing you have to understand, it is the last remedy or last remedy available for some compensation related to injustice. That is the last resort. Think of this, last remedy available. So here, what is to be there? Now this is a more detailed question. It may also be possible you have not heard about it, or you have heard about it but you don't know all the details. Take this question simply from the point of view that you are also learning more from it, because this, I will tell you, this is a very detailed question on curative petition. Okay, even in the recent past 2 or 3 4 years, you will find at least the criminal or the civil aspects, sometimes they're asking you some detailed questions. So take it in this manner. If you did not know this level of detail, it's absolutely okay. Okay, the petitioner must establish there was a genuine violation of principles of natural justice, because again we are saying this is the last remedy that is available, the last resort that is available. This is true. The petition must state specifically the grounds mentioned that had been taken in the review petition and that was dismissed by, that is also true. The petition must accompany certification by senior advocate. Now this is the procedural aspect, true. The petition has to be sent to 3 senior most judges and judges, etc., who has passed the judgment affecting the petition. All of these are true. The answer is all the 4. Okay, but here what I want you to remember is what is the idea of a curative petition, a very prominent Supreme Court judgment. Okay, Rupa Ashok Hurra versus Ashok Hurra case. Okay, and main thing is the only one keyword, to cure gross injustice or miscarriage of justice. For that you have a curative petition. Okay, all right. Now, which of the following will be brought by President? Okay, so adjournment speaker, adjournment standby speaker, these 2 by the President. Answer is only 2. Okay, not very difficult. With reference to the Parliament, which of the following is not correct? So first, let's see which are correct. I'll start with, let's say, statement number last. Constitution provide for the address of President to the either house, true, or both the houses, yes. Some resolutions of the Parliament are binding on the government and have the force of law. This is also true. Okay, a calling attention motion can be used only to call a minister's attention to, this is also true. Okay, can only be called for matter of urgent public importance. Now the last or the very first statement, powers, privileges and immunities of members of Parliament. Pehli cheez, they have not been codified. They have not been codified. Okay, of course the inspiration is from Britain, but in India you don't have a very specific law outlining all of them. Now they are the same immediately before coming into force of the Constitution 44th. This is in fact wrong. This will be 44th constitutional amendment. All right. So main thing is there is nothing which has codified the power, privileges and the immunity that we have. There is no law that has been enacted. Yes, we have Article 105 and Article 194 talking about the parliamentary privileges. Okay, but nothing of this sort is there. All right, so that is one thing that you will keep in mind. And main thing is, it is the 44th Amendment Act which deals with some aspect, but you don't have a specific law. So what is the incorrect statement here? 42nd is mentioned. It should have been 44th. Okay, so that is the correct answer is A. A is incorrect. Other 3 are correct. Okay, now I think this is generally where we have completed your polity. Now let's come to history, and this is more specifically modern history. 44th, Rayotwari. Okay, under the Rayotwari system, the cultivator theoretically possessed freedom regarding cultivation, which of the following best explains this? The moment you see Rayot-Wari system, your mind should go back to Alexander Reed, Thomas Munro, basic part, right? And again, the basic comparison between the three different systems, etc., that you should know. Here, the answer for 44 basically here is what freedom the cultivator can choose whether or not to cultivate a field after the assessment. This freedom was available, okay, whether or not to cultivate a field after assessment. The other things are not correct with respect to the context the question is asked, okay. The rate of revenue is not correct, pay land revenue only after the sale, etc., not correct. Main thing is yes, whether or not, and main thing is of course this is more theoretical in nature, okay. So Rayot-Wari system, this is the correct answer. Now this, I think most of you would have gotten this correct if you have three resolutions. In fact, the Mayo and Rippons, these are very well read by the aspirants. Bentinck resolution, promotion of European literature and sciences through English, yes. Mayo resolution, very important landmark, right, related to the local bodies, this is absolutely correct. And build up to that is Rippons resolution in the local administration, which is correctly matched, all the three, okay. Again, when you read about the local part, you both read about Mayo as well as the Rippons resolution, okay. So nothing very difficult in this part. Now this is going to be a question which will require some aspect of your knowledge related to if you're able to chronologically arrange few things, okay. Now the young husband mission to Tibet is generally around the time of 1903, 1904, okay. Indian Universities Act is slightly after this. Now you have two other things. One is the coronation darbar of King George, okay. Though this happened way later, this happened in 1911. Whereas if you look at the formation of All India Muslim League, okay, this some of you would know, 1906. So if you try to arrange it, we will start with the mission to Tibet 3, then we go to 1, then we go to 4, and then we go to 2. So your answer becomes for 46, the answer becomes A, okay. Formation of All India Muslim League, and in fact this coronation of King George at Delhi can also be a point that you know that the answer should end with 2, but the issue is all the answers are ending with 2 because that is 1911. So you have to know at least 1 or 2 more facts in addition to that, then only you will be able to solve it. Okay. Now 47, the famous Stuttgart flag episode 1907 associated with India's freedom struggle took place in which of the following events? We are talking of 1907, okay. Ab history mein, if you have had some idea, we are talking about the Stuttgart flag episode, the Indian Socialist Congress, okay. Again there are articles, Bhikaji Kama with the Stuttgart flag 1907, okay, very important. And again the first Indian to hoist a tricolor abroad, Bhikaji Kama, okay. Postal stamp, maybe again the mention of her name is there. There is a Bhikaji Kama place also in Delhi. Is question mein what is the correct answer to this? The International Socialist Congress, okay. All right, now next, Tantya Mama. So this is related to the Bhil protest. Let's see this. He was associated with the Bhil community of Central India, correct. Resistance was primarily directed against the British revenue. It's a बहुत simple सा statement है. This should not, and it does not have any trap as such, okay, true. He is revered as the Indian Robin Hood for redistributing wealth to the poorer tribal groups. This happened a lot, taking away something from the richer groups and giving it to the poorer tribal groups. In this question, all the 3 statements are correct. No statement is particularly having a trap which you can be confused on. So if you have any idea about, let's say, the Bhil protest or Bhil tribal groups in Central India, in this question, all the 3 statements are correct. अब आ जाता है अब statement where you have to identify a person based on the paragraph. Now this question, especially in history, can be challenging for some of you if you have not understood the history well. Okay? Again, for history and other subjects, like I think some of you are mentioning comments maybe, agar if you want to complete these subjects in a time bound manner, in a very, let's say, output based manner, we have a very comprehensive prelims bootcamp batch, recordings of which you can also see. And again, if you want to do it live with the remaining subjects that are remaining, you can please contact the team. Now Coming back, 19th century intellectual, Bombay Presidency, okay, pioneer of vernacular journalism. He founded Darpan, सबसे बड़ा hint है दर्पण. उसके बाद social reforms, widow remarriage, scientific temper, first professor of Hindi, Elphinstone College, later became the director. Here you have very prominent people of our freedom struggle, but here simply the answer simply becomes C. Bal Shastri Jamvekar. आप इससे guess कर सकते हो. From Darpan you can also guess it, or you can also guess it from maybe widow remarriage, scientific temper, etc. The answer is C. Now, Government of India Act 1919, interesting, will always be important. GOI 1919. Now, Government of, couple of things you need to know. Government of India 1990 Act में governor will have very wide range of powers, right? Now, whenever if I have to remember Government of India Act 1919, I will also remember Government of India Act 1909, Monte reforms. Here, the first time separate electorate was introduced for Muslims, and this idea was later extended in 1919. It was extended to Sikhs and even Christians, right? Anglo-Indians. Let's see this statement now. Governor General could summon, dissolve the chambers that can also issue ordinance. Simple याद रखेंगे. The governor has wide-ranging powers. कर सकता है. Legislative councils could reject the budget, but the governor could restore it. बिल्कुल सही है. Ultimately, the essence is the governor has wide powers. Governor कर सकता है ये, बिल्कुल कर सकता है. The act provided separate electorates for Sikhs and Anglo-Indians. Yes. In addition to Muslims, of course, Muslims wala part was already done in 1909. But in 1919, it was additionally there for other communities. This is also true. The salary of the Secretary of State for India, this is important, was to be paid by British Exchequer instead of the Indian revenue. This is also correct here. All the four statements are correct. Sare ke sare, all the four statements are correct. Question number 50. Okay, the answer becomes D. Now, we are done with almost half. Okay. Now, the remaining of 50 odd questions are remaining, right? So, we will again see this in the same manner like we have done. Chalo, abhi dekhte hain. The Nehru report of 1928 proposed 1919 fundamental rights, including equal rights for women and adult suffrage. This is true. August offer, ab isme bhi, when you read it, don't read it carelessly. In this question, there are no traps, by the way. Okay. But August offer में हो सकता है viceroy का name change हो जाए, or the year is changed. Here everything is fine. This is correct. This is correct. Proposal for setting up a constituent assembly after the war, which is why people were not very satisfied with the August offer. Because right, Cripps mission proposed Indian Union with ये भी problem थी, dominion status. Okay, with the right to withdraw from the Commonwealth. True. The question is saying which is incorrect. All the three are correct. This is none. Again, modern Indian history, if you again look back at the papers, if you are weak, please, these are very basic questions if they are getting asked. Again, people who are watching this, please tell me, how did you find which section was more difficult, which was more doable? What do you make of history? Abhi tak, what have we seen? We have seen some questions of economy, polity, current affairs. Now we are seeing history. Okay. Any section which you found very difficult, some, okay, so you tell me. Again, after the session gets over, 5 minutes, we'll also discuss the same. 51 tak I think we have seen history. Now we will see some questions which will have some knowledge of environment as well as geography mixed. Okay, now let's have a look at it. And please note, these are very conceptual questions. Okay, if you do not know them at the outset, you will have something from them to take away. Okay, अब देखते हैं. Warming of atmosphere will lead to heavier rainfall because for every 1 degree rise in temperature, the atmosphere will be able to hold less water vapor. ठीक, अब if you know, चलो अगर if the atmosphere is getting warmer, we know that it will lead to more rainfall. जो कि बोल रहा है, it will lead to heavier rainfall. But this statement is contradicting itself, saying that for every 1 degree rise, atmosphere will be able to hold less water vapor. If it is holding less water vapor, how will it lead to higher rainfall? Right? Even if I don't know the statement in and out, this is still wrong. Yes or no? It will be able to hold more water vapor. Then only there will be more heavy rainfall. Yes or no? So simple thing, be it geography, be it environment. If the warming of atmosphere is happening, heavy rainfall will happen. Why will there be heavy rainfall? Because for every 1 degree increase in temperature, atmosphere will be able to hold more water vapor. First statement is wrong. Second statement, ground level ozone production will tend to decrease with warming of atmosphere due to rapid dispersion. Ab, with more and more warming, see, first thing please remember, ground level ozone is a secondary pollutant. It is not emitted directly. Secondary का मतलब होता है it will react with something to form ground level ozone. Ground level ozone का production it increases with warming. Okay, it is going to increase more and more, and in fact यहाँ पे होता भी क्या है कि देखो warming, ठीक, warming से सोचो there will be more sunlight. In our classes we have also seen photochemical smog, याद करो. And even if you've not done the classes, there is a photochemical smog. If there is more sunlight, आप सोचो, if there is more warming, there is more sunlight. This sunlight will lead to more reactions. So existing particles, it can be methane, it can be other particles, NOx, any other particle think of, they will ultimately react to form ground level ozone. So what happens in this case, you have to remember, is it will lead to more and more reactions if there is warming. It is not leading to lesser reactions. So two things you will understand. This is a application based question. If the temperature is getting more warm, what will happen? Heavy rainfall will happen because atmosphere will hold less, sorry, it will hold more water vapor. Second, ozone का production भी ज़्यादा हो जाएगा, ground level ozone, and ground level ozone is a pollutant. ठीक है? Ground level ozone is a pollutant, वो भी problem cause करेगा. ठीक है? अच्छा, see, if current affairs was difficult, of course you will have more current affairs sessions as time progresses, or consolidation भी अगर होगा, so that is there. In every mock view, you will get a different kind of a flavor, okay? And then you need to know कि भाई how to attempt, what to skip, and overall you have to make an analysis of it. ठीक है? चलो. Last question है, climate change increases frequency and intensity of extreme weather events. Absolutely true. This is a statement we repeat so many times. दोनों चीज increase हो रही है. So here only one statement is correct. But these two are conceptual statements, both of them are wrong. The GLO will increase, whereas more rainfall will be there because of more water vapor being held. Okay, now, this is also an interesting question in case you don't know some aspects here. Again, this question is a mix of environment as well as geography. Let's have a look at net effect of a hurricane. ठीक है, hurricane देखा हमने, the hurricane passage is the significant release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, okay, due to intense surface stirring. Now, for this question, what I'll tell you, if there is a hurricane, okay, hurricane के case में there is some CO2 that is released and some CO2 that is absorbed, but the net impact of that, right, the net effect is that CO2 is overall released in the case of the movement of hurricane. Okay, that the net effect is overall that you will have in this case. तो यहाँ पे एक चीज याद रखेंगे, देखो यहाँ पे लिखा है the net effect of hurricane. अच्छा, यहाँ पे the opposite is written. Just a second. See, normally when a hurricane goes through, the net impact means whatever is released and whatever is absorbed. Overall impact is absorbed. Okay, so let's say 100 CO2, 100 kgs of CO2 is released and 100 odd CO2. So it is not a net zero. Second, overall impact is some CO2 is getting absorbed in this, right? और ये होता क्यों है? इसकी there are two main things here, right? In the very short term, a process एक होता है outgassing. Short term में CO2 is released, but in the long term, that is why we see net effect. Long term में CO2 gets absorbed. Okay. Now, why is this happening? Again, एक reason I'm going beyond this, again, an overlap of geography. Hurricanes over a long period will lead to cooling, I'm saying cooling of the sea. cooling of sea helps overall in the capture of CO2. It will take up CO2. जो हमारा ओशन है, सी अगर हरिकेन होगा तो the whole ocean is getting disturbed. The moment the ocean gets cold, ocean can absorb more CO2. So इसी क्वेश्चन को अगर if I have to simplify, and now what you have to remember overall, if there is a hurricane, in the short term there is more CO2 released. क्यों? Because of outgassing, right? But in the long term, what is the impact of a hurricane? Long term में hurricane absorbs CO2. Why? Because the ocean का surface it becomes cooler. That is the overall thing. So the first statement, because of this, यहाँ पे लिखा है significant release. नहीं, net effect is not significant release. It is in fact taking it up. Now, viruses regulate the carbon cycle by destroying microorganisms and releasing organic carbon into aquatic ecosystems. Okay, can virus do so? ये कर सकते हैं. Virus can also regulate the carbon cycle. True. Okay, you don't have to go into the process. There's a lysis process that goes into it. But this statement is correct that virus can regulate the carbon cycle by destroying microorganisms, और वो भी इस cycle के part होंगे. In the carbon cycle, there can also be decomposers. Okay, there can also be separately virus that can also act. अब virus जब act करेगा, they will again require the presence of a host while doing so. All of that part is correct. Fine. Last statement is again a relatively less known fact. इस क्वेश्चन को भी मैं क्लासिफाई करूंगा टफ क्वेश्चन में. दिस इज अ क्वेश्चन आपने शायद थर्ड स्टेटमेंट पहली बार सुना होगा. Although ocean fronts cover just 1/3 of the global ocean, true, they are responsible for 3/4 of the total carbon dioxide uptake. This is absolutely true. ठीक है, कि ocean fronts बहुत छोटा सा एरिया ऑक्यूपाई करते हैं, but they are able to take up so 72% जो ग्लोबल ओशन CO2 है, इट इज टेकन अप बाय दीज ओशन फ्रंट्स. ओके, अब क्यों हो रहा है दिस? अगेन यहाँ पे यू हैव अ लॉट ऑफ फाइटोप्लैंक्टॉन्स दैट इज गोइंग टू वर्क. ओके, न्यूट्रिएंट सप्लाई चेन्स है, बट मेन थिंग रिवर क्या हमें क्या याद रखना है, या व्हाट इज द टेक अवे ऑफ दिस क्वेश्चन इज दैट दीज ओशन फ्रंट्स दे टेक अप almost 3/4, that is almost 75% of carbon dioxide. ठीक है. Now again I'm telling you this question, even if you did not know some of these aspects, this is a question that is relatively very new, ठीक है, and very difficult because of the range of topics that is asked in this question. So 53 will be difficult. 52 I will still say it is more application based. Okay, so this of course will be difficult. Now let's have a look at 54 और बाकी देखते हैं. This is a question which I think most of you who have read the topic well should be able to solve it. Okay, now question is saying which of the following is incorrect. कौन सा गलत statement है? तो question is related to methane. 90% of atmospheric methane is removed through chemical reactions. This is fine. Microbes in the water plastisphere generally adopt the life history of copiotrophs to survive in resource limited aquatic environments. This I am sure most of you are seeing this statement for the very first time, but question क्या पूछ रहा है, which is not correct. We should be patient to read all the statement. हमें सारे statements पढ़ने चाहिए. Methane remains in the atmosphere for several centuries, similar to carbon dioxide. The moment you read this statement, you already know the answer. This is incorrect. Carbon dioxide can live for 100 or more years. Methane is a short-lived climate pollutant. It will barely live maximum 12 years or so, 10 to 12 years, 8 to 12 years. Yes or no? This is the answer that we are looking for. So in some questions, if you are patient enough and if you read all the options, क्योंकि हो सकता है if a statement is there, it is very tough, you have not read it, don't leave that question. Last आ जाओ, most of the heat trapped by methane during its atmosphere lifetime is eventually transferred to and stored in the deep ocean. This is correct. Or second statement basically is simply saying कि microbes which are present in the plastisphere, which is there, here they are surviving in very limited environments where you have very limited resources available. So that is correct, but even if you don't know it, that is absolutely fine. When you go through the explanation, you can read about what are copiotrophs, etc., etc. But my point is, this question according to me can be solvable. I want to know how many of you attempted question number 54. किसने attempt किया इस question को? ठीक है, चलो let's see this. More questions. Basalt formation has been a theme which has been asked by UPSC even before in 2023 PYQ. We have also seen this in the class, but now let's have a look at it. Basalt formations are considered ideal for carbon mineralization process. This is absolutely true. Basalt formations are rich in magnesium and calcium and can solidify this into solid minerals. ये बिल्कुल सही है. This is why you get stable carbonates. This is how the stable carbonates are actually formed in the first place. This is true. Now, basalt actually does not have low permeability. It is the opposite. Basalt actually has high permeability. So this becomes wrong. Okay, third statement is wrong, but let's see the statements here. The answer will be only one of the statements 2 and 3 is correct. That explains statement number 1. Okay, because the other statement is actually wrong here. So for basalt formation, our answer becomes C. Okay, only one of the statements is correct. Statement 2 is absolutely correct. Statement 3 is wrong. You have a high permeability in this case of basalt. Okay, so that is why this statement becomes wrong. Okay, talking of basalt, etc. Please remember, when we are saying basalt, okay, you can inject or take up CO2 in the air, and you can inject it deep inside basalt rocks. Okay, so basalt rocks, why? Because basalt rocks are able to make very stable carbonates. That is why you're preferring the basalt rocks. All right. Now, one of the most in news topic that you will ever expect, this is going to be the most expected topic, COP30. Okay, the question is saying which of the following were launched in this. Now, most of you will know Tropical Forest Forever Facility. This is a very big outcome. Second, if you have done your classes well, we've also seen this body, scaling J, red plus J is jurisdictional red plus coalition. This is also true. Now, super pollutant country action accelerator. Actually, ये जो term है super pollutant, we already know terms short-lived climate pollutant. Other term for short-lived climate pollutant is super pollutants, which means we are talking of methane, we are talking of black carbon, we are talking of tropospheric ozone, and we are talking of HFC, hydrofluorocarbons. SLCP का दूसरा नाम is super pollutant, and in the COP30 we had a super pollutant country action accelerator. This is true. Okay, now, so this can be a new piece of information in case you did not know. However, ये आप eliminate कर सकते हैं. NCQG was adopted in COP29, Azerbaijan, Baku. This is not related. So 1, 2 and 4 were launched. The answer becomes only 3. Okay, I hope that part is true. Now, last year we had a same 3 statement question on Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. They had asked. Okay, in the same format. So again, the idea is to also tell you that no need to only prepare of one-liners. You will have almost the same syntax. एक बार इसको देखते हैं. And in fact, in the classes we have done way beyond this. Article 4 भी पढ़ा है, Article 2 भी पढ़ा है. We have seen many other articles, not just this. So, Article 4 of the Paris Agreement, sorry, Article 5 of the Paris Agreement is related to mitigation. Main keyword है. Correct. Article 5 promotes voluntary RED plus, etc. This is also correct. Article 5 enables the developing nations to use results based on RED plus, etc. NDCs. All the 3 are correct. And this explains this. So here, main takeaway is because it is related to mitigation of the forest related aspect, the answer is correct. Okay. So Article 5 may all these 3 are covered actually. The answer becomes A. Statement 2 and 3 are correct, and they also explain A. Not much to overall explain here. Main thing याद रखेंगे, mitigate करना है climate change, okay, through the conservation and management of forests. So keep that in mind. Now, this question also should not be very difficult. COP15 of Ramsar Convention, cities of Udaipur, correct. The moment you see Kodaikanal, this is incorrect. Wetland city accreditation was given to 2 cities. One is Indore, the cleanest city. Think of Sirpur Lake. दूसरा था Udaipur. Kodaikanal is not there. One हटा दो. Ramsar COP15 adopted India's resolution of promoting sustainable lifestyle for wide use. This is correct. Congo Basin peatland complex is the largest tropical peatland in the world. Yes. Even this statement has been asked by UPSC once. So here what is correct? Only 2. These questions I'm expecting you would have at least gotten them right. Now, again we are back to the aspect of art and culture and some aspect of history. So if you see question number 59, now Kalibangan, and you have to see discovery has to be correct also, and the notable feature has to be correct. Okay, so Kalibangan was excavated by A goes discovery, yes. Evidence of cropping, yes. First man-made dockyard. This is not Banavali, this is Lothal. If I just knew this, Lothal, this is wrong. Sculpture of bearded man, Mohenjo-daro, R.D. Banerjee, this is also there in our NCERT. What is correctly matched? Only 2. Okay, and in the questions that you will see here, some basic details from the NCERT is also there. In fact, Robert Bruce Wood, okay, this fact from NCERT has been asked. So let us see if you remember all of them. So Atirampakkam, Nagarjun Konda, Kurnool Caves, Isampur, in this case, right, all the 4 are correctly mentioned. The answer becomes D. All the 4 are correctly matched. Okay. Now, with reference to revenue sources in the reign of Harshvardhan, again also covered in the NCERT, these are relatively doable questions. Which of the following was significant? Agriculture produce, taxes on ports, income from mines. Now, very important thing is forced labor, right? And the moment we say forced labor, we have to go back to the account of the very famous prominent Chinese traveler. We're talking of Yuan Shang. So Yuan Shang simply says families are not registered in individuals were not subject to forced labor contributions. Taxation was very light. Okay, forced service was sparingly used. So ये तो नहीं होगा mandatory forced labor. So if you eliminate that, you get your answer 1, 2, and 3. Question number 61. Okay. Now, with respect to the coins that we see in medieval India, let's have a look at it. Alauddin Khalji was the first Indian ruler to discard the Abbasid Caliph's name on his coin. This is correct. Akbar adopted Sher Shah's currency system, replacing Shahrukhi with the rupiah and introducing the gold coins. Okay, this is also correct. The last one, Krishnadev Raya issued the coins featuring the seated Bal Krishna motif. This is correct, but it is specifically the Achyut Rai who had very specific double-headed eagle. This you see here. This is this Ganda Berunda, the double-headed eagle, right? So this, while this is a Vijayanagar coin, the coins issued by Krishnadev Raya or Achyut Raya, they were having different motives. Okay, this is why the statement becomes wrong. Again, please carefully see, the question is saying which of the following is incorrect. Sirf ek statement incorrect hai, the answer becomes only 1. 62, the answer becomes B. Okay, this is there. Now let's move ahead. You often see these kind of one-liners being asked. Mughal administration, Amal Gulzar was primarily related to collecting land revenue at the district level. Okay, question 63, the answer is B. Now, some more questions on geography, let's have a look at. All locations on the same longitude experience local load at the same time, universal coordinated, but they experience different sunrise and sunset. Again, think of, this is equator. Okay, of course your longitudes are these, latitudes are these, right? The question is saying location is on the same longitude. Okay, experience the same local load. This is correct, but the sunrise and sun, this is going to differ. Okay, kyun? Because of the tilt of the Earth's axis. This is correct. So I'm just writing because of the tilt of the axis. This is going to different sunrise or different sunset. This is absolutely true. Okay, now the angular difference between two places along the same latitude directly affects the time difference between them. Simply, what is this? 360-degree overall. Okay, now if the Earth is rotating 24 hours mein, now what this amounts to, this tells me that 15 degree per every hour, 15 degree every hour, or इसको भी if I divide it, so 1 degree every, okay, so 1 degree overall every 4 minutes. So the angular difference between the two places along the same latitude directly affects the time difference between them. Yes, absolutely correct. Okay, now if two places are located on the same longitude, chalo same longitude मान लेते हैं, but different latitude, let's say some places close to equator, some places close to pole, the length of their shadow at noon will be the same. Nahi, it will not be the same. Sun's rays are going to be direct close to equator and they will be slanting with respect to poles. So how can the shadow be same in that regard? The shadow will not be the same. This is wrong. Which is correct? Only 2. Yes. Now let's see. Question number 65. Coronal mass ejection CME can disrupt satellite communication, GPS navigation and power grids. Yes, it can disrupt it. This is a very important conceptual doubt that you can have. CME release क्या करता है? मतलब what does CME related to? CME release high energy gamma rays and neutrinos which penetrate Earth's magnetic field. Nahi, this is wrong. In fact, the coronal mass ejection that we have, okay, it is simply associated with solar flares, magnetized particles, and not these high energy gamma rays or neutrinos for that matter. Okay, so if I were to just tell you a couple of points, देखो, जो solar flares हैं, there are 4 terms. Solar flares, main thing is X-rays or UVs. Okay, this can lead to disturbance in the ionosphere. Coronal mass ejections, they will have charged plasma, right? Gamma rays, alag, these are very much, they have some flare, these are very rare, but they don't have an impact on the ionosphere. Similarly, neutrinos also do not have the impact on the ionosphere. Okay, main thing is it is having charged plasma, okay, and of course some of these magnetic particles. So they release high energy gamma, neutrinos nahi, they do not release this. This becomes wrong. Which what is related, which penetrates Earth magnetic field, affects the ionosphere, that because for this statement this becomes wrong. So here what is the answer for question number 65? Statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is not correct. Answer becomes C. Coronal mass ejections, again you read both even in science but of course in geography as well. Now with reference to the Thwaites glacier, in fact these 2 glaciers are glaciers from Antarctica. Okay, if you are writing this, just also write Thwaites glacier is very much in the news since the last 4-5 years. This is also known as the world's doomsday glacier, and this glacier is melting, and people want to know why is this melting in Antarctica, what is the reason behind it. Okay, and this is not just a localized, this is a thing which is also of a lot of, let's say, interest to the scientists, researchers, etc., etc. Okay, now here, अच्छा 1 second, सौरभ कौन सा क्वेश्चन आप बोल रहे हो? Which question are you talking about? And question I also mentioned whether हो सकता है you are directly agreeing or let's say you're disagreeing. Both things you tell me. Then we can also mention it. ठीक है? चलो, let's come back to Thwaites Glacier and Pine Island Glacier. Now, the phenomena of storm-like ocean circulation patterns. ठीक है? Storm के जैसे there are certain patterns in the oceans which are there. पहली चीज, if it is storm-like, it is not at all related to tsunami. Okay, high velocity, not at all related to cyclone. This is just so that you directly think, अच्छा, it is storm-like, and you directly mention the answer. No, that's not true. है क्या ये चीज? What is actually happening here? These are short-term turbulent water masses. Okay, where they are actually transferring heat to the ice shelf base. Let's say this is your ice shelf, right? This is melting, and this is directly melting from the base. Why is this melting? Because of the short-term fine scale, a lot of turbulent water. आप और डिटेल में पढ़ोगे तो there are turbulent eddies, some ocean currents, which are responsible for the melting of these glaciers. So main चीज है storm-like ocean circulation patterns. These are short term, fine scale, turbulent water masses that transfer the heat to the ocean. Okay, so that is there. Now, if we move to the next one, if one were to observe the Earth from space over a sustained period, how many of the above phenomena would be noticed as a direct result of Earth rotation? देखो Earth की rotation, Earth revolution. What are the phenomena that you generally read about? Trade winds are an impact of rotation. Yes. Coriolis. Yes. Earth's equatorial bulge, day and night cycle. All of these things can be attributed to this particular phenomena. So that is absolutely correct. Okay. So question number 67. So this is a more direct kind of a question. Okay. So here the answer becomes D, all the four. Now, polymetallic nodules पढ़ते हो आप. Now they can also be called as batteries or potatoes of the deep sea. Okay. Which of the best describes the formation process? Best क्या है? Slow accretion of minerals around a nucleus. Millimeters per million years. So it takes a very long time to make it happen. Slow accretion of minerals around a nucleus is what is your polymetallic nodules. Okay. Now, another thing that is again in the news is question number 69, atmospheric rivers. Okay. अब देखो atmospheric rivers. What is the idea here? Atmosphere mein there is water vapor. When this water vapor is going to get condensed, it can also lead to rain. Okay, that is how that is the whole idea, that a lot of condensed water vapor is there in the atmosphere, and it can lead to certain rainfall in the regions. Now, in this question, what I'll tell you, this question can also be solved again by basic reading of statement. Now, if you look at statement number 3, atmospheric rivers always cause flooding whenever they make landfall. This is wrong. Okay. Some cases may it can simply be a rainfall. It does not have to always cause flooding. That is the main aspect. Okay. So this statement is not going to be always true. 2 is wrong. They are typically associated with strong low-level winds and are responsible for significant fraction of poleward moisture. Yes, some moisture goes to the poles, and that when condense precipitates as rain. This is true. And the last one, atmospheric rivers are long, narrow corridors in the atmosphere that transport huge amounts of water vapor. Bilkul sahi hai. From the tropics towards the higher latitudes. This is also true. That is why we are saying it is going polewards. And when it has condensed to a sufficient level, वो बारिश हो जाएगी. It will fall as rainfall. Okay. So this is the overall idea. We are seeing more and more such phenomena of atmospheric rivers. Normally you think of rivers, right? अब हमारे यहाँ peninsular, you have rivers, you have Himalayan rivers, but in the news also you hear about the atmospheric rivers. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Now, which statement about earthquake is not correct? We have had such questions also in the PYQs. Let's have a look at it. Or is question mein I think some of you would have gotten it right, but you have to be patient. Elastic rebound theory explains why rocks hotter than 300 degrees Celsius generally do not produce earthquake. Okay. Now this is actually correct. Okay. And because if the temperature is more than 300 degree, okay, तो क्या हो जाता है, ये सारे जो रॉक है ये they become more ductile, right? And वो टूटते नहीं है, they do not break, but generally the stresses will flow in this. The rocks, the earthquake will happen when these rocks will have a break, जो टूट जाएंगे when they break actually, right? Here the issue is that they're not breaking in that aspect beyond a certain temperature range. This is explained by the elastic rebound theory. The first statement is correct. Now, P waves, S waves, normally also you should know in and out. Okay, first to arrive, more destructive, epicenter, all of that. Arrival time between the primary waves and the secondary waves is used to determine the earthquake's epicenter. Yes. Then the moment magnitude scale accounts for the rupture area, slip amount, and the rock rigidity. Whereas Richter, you have different scales, right? Richter scales measures the peak amplitude on a seismograph. Yes, right. So, for example, we say the earthquake was 8.9. Right, Richter scale, for example, right, or it was 7, or it was 6, etc., etc. This is also true, which means, of course, the issue is in statement number last. the deep focus earthquakes are generally more destructive than the surface ones, more destructive at the surface than the shallow focus ones. No, it is the opposite. The shallow focus ones are more destructive as compared to the deep focus ones. This is the overall trap that you had to know. Okay. So this statement becomes wrong, and the moment it becomes wrong, this is our answer. So question number 70, our answer becomes D. Okay, now which of the following best explains the seasonal reversal of winds in the Indian summer monsoon? We are talking of the seasonal reversal of winds. Okay, now obvious answer is the seasonal reversal is because of the shift of the ITCZ by differential heating of land and sea. So I hope most of you would have gotten this statement also correct. Okay, so 71 mein the answer is actually D. The seasonal northward shift of the ITCZ is going to cause the reversal. Other points, ocean salinity not important, axial tilt here also not important, right? Or the seasonal variations, etc. because of perihelion, ephelion, of course not directly related, but you should know what is perihelion, what is ephelion, okay? And you should know what happens because of changes in Earth's overall axial tilt, rotation, revolution, etc. etc. But इसका बहुत direct answer है ITCZ. Okay, now question number 72. If you are having some interest in geography or have a geography optional, you will get it right. But for other people, if you have not done the landforms well, this question is going to be tough, no doubt about it. In each subject, you will have one or two questions which will be very tough. Okay, in geography, this is that question, spits and shingle beaches, or दूसरा क्या है, the term that is pediments. Okay, now in case you are not at all clear about what they are, you will make a mistake in this question. Okay, if you're not sure. However, but because of some reason, if you've marked your answer as A, I'll tell you that that is the right answer. But here, our idea is also to know. Now, if I'm looking at spit, okay, and if I'm looking at a pediment, these are two different types of landforms. Okay, so you have a spit and you have a pediment. So first thing is you have spits and shingle beaches. They are found in regions of low longshore drift and high wave energy. Main cheez kya hai? These are the landforms which are going to be created because of a lot of deposition. So you should have certain energy available. Okay, it can be in the waves or these drifts so as to deposit. Yes. Pediments kahan pe hai? Low rainfall and sparse vegetation. This is also true. Yahan pe to these are more semi-arid conditions for a pediment. This is true. Now, longshore drift, which is there in the first statement, and powerful breaking waves, they transport and deposit the sediments along the coastlines, forming spits and shingle beaches. Absolutely correct. While pediments develop through sheet wash and mechanical weathering, यहाँ पे these are very arid, semi-arid conditions. A lot of weathering is going to happen. A shallow slope, etc., is going to be developed in case of a pediment. Even this is true under semi-arid climatic conditions. Statement 1 is correct, statement 2 is correct, the answer is A. But normally or conventionally, this question is going to be difficult if you have no idea about what is a spit or a shingle beach or what's a pediment. Okay, so this is going to be one of those tougher geography based questions, and tougher only in the sense if you've done your landforms fairly well, then only you can answer it. Okay, so there will be questions again, as we'll see, which will be slightly more tricky and slightly more challenging. So one has to also look that into account. Now, what would be the direction of the trade winds? The next question, let's have a look at. Okay, and here the question is asking us blowing in the northern hemisphere, and the main thing is if the direction of Earth's rotation. Now, yahan pe is in this question we have changed the direction of Earth's rotation. Okay, so normally in the normal case, normal condition, the direction of rotation is from the west to east. Okay, and because of this, the objects are going to deflect to the northern hemisphere. All right, now if the direction is changed, so that is why if I am putting like this, the deflection is to the right. Right, now if the condition is reversed and if the rotation is from east to west, the same thing, the deflection in the northern hemisphere, let's say if I have to look at, the question is saying northern hemisphere, is going to happen here. Instead of right, it will be to the left. So what will be the direction of trade winds? The trade winds direction will change in this manner. Okay, so here if I look at it, the trade winds, So you have north, you have south, you have east, you have west, right? So where is this direction? This is northwest, right? So this direction will change. All right. Now, question number 74 is also going to give you some information. All of us are using the 100 rupee note, but let's have a look at some things here. Question number 74. The monument shown in the ₹20 note represents a rock-cut architectural tradition that flourished. Under this question is again based on your knowledge of current affairs as well as history, right? So the very first question we are talking about here is your Ellora caves. True. The motif on the ₹50 note belongs to a temple complex constructed during the Vijayanagar and is carved out of a single stone. Okay. So here we are talking again of some of the notable features at the Hampi, the Vijay Vitthal temple. Right, but a different way of asking you. Carved out of a single stone. The structure on the ₹100 note exemplifies India's historical water management system, and this was commissioned during the period of the Delhi Sultanate. This part is wrong. Delhi Sultanate part. Okay. Here, if you look at closely, we are talking of Rani Ki Vav. Where is this? This is in Gujarat. Okay. So Rani Ki Vav again simply is a step well. Right. It is even before the Delhi Sultanate. So you had the Queen Udaymati of the Solanki dynasty in the 11th century. Right. So because of the statement number 3, so 3 is wrong. The answer is 1 and 2. Question number 74. Now, recently discovered Buddhist remains at Zehanpora in Jammu and Kashmir have renewed the focus on recent ancient Buddhist traditions. Now they're asking which of the following about Buddhism in Kashmir is incorrect. Okay. Now, Kashmir witnessed important developments linked to Mahayana Buddhism. This is true. Fourth Buddhist Council is believed to be held. This is also fine. Then Buddhism reached Kashmir only after the missionary efforts of Ashoka. This is wrong. It reached before. Okay. The regions contributed to transmission of Buddhists towards Central Asia. This is also true. From the location also you can guess it. Here the answer becomes for 75. The answer becomes C. Okay. हिंदी प्लीज आप बताएंगे एक बार. नो मनी बिल वाला प्रशांत आई हैव एक्सप्लेन्ड. मनी बिल वाले केस में all the 4 can do this. Sorry, I mean the private member can introduce a money bill as well. Normally books में ये नहीं लिखा होगा. Books में, like that is why I've told you only minister part is mentioned. Acha, so you have taken a selfie with the ₹50 note and you solved it. Okay. Okay. See, if any other question is also a doubt for a couple of questions, let me just complete the last remaining 25 odd questions. The other remaining questions, I'll again have a discussion with all of you. So don't worry. So we'll just now complete the remaining ones. उसके बाद अगर कोई भी doubt है, I'll take it up as well. ठीक है? If you're not able to understand any concept specifically, then also you let me know. Drop it here. We'll also discuss this. ठीक है? So don't worry. I'll take your doubts also after this. Now, this question becomes important. 75 questions related to Jainism and Buddhism are in general important. Now, you have a term upasak, you have pratima, and you have amalak. Okay. Now, जो यहाँ पे लिखा है fully ordained Buddhist monk, ठीक है? So fully ordained Buddhist monk is known as a bhikkhu. So this becomes wrong. So what is the upasak? The male lay devotee. तो पहला तो स्टेटमेंट गलत हो गया हमारा. सेकंड क्या है? प्रतिमा and amalak. So pratima is actually the spiritual stages of a progress for a lay follower in Jainism. ठीक है? So male lay devotee in Buddhism is known as upasak. ठीक है? सेकेंड स्टेटमेंट सही है जिसमें हम श्रावक या जिसमें बात कर रहे हैं. वी आर टॉकिंग ऑफ प्रतिमा. एंड थर्ड वन इज अमालक. थर्ड इज ऑल्सो करेक्ट. ठीक है, एक रिब्ड सर्कुलर स्टोन एट द टॉप ऑफ शिखर, ठीक है, तो शिखर भी सही है। अगर हम टेम्पल स्ट्रक्चर की बात करें, फिर टॉक ऑफ टेम्पल स्ट्रक्चर, आपने सुने होंगे दो स्पेसिफिक केसेस, नागर ओके और द्रविड़ा स्टाइल। तो स्पेशली इन द केस ऑफ नॉर्थ इंडियन टेम्पल जहां पे एक अच्छा खासा शिखर होगा तो नागर स्टाइल में, तो वहां पे भी वी सी अ टर्म अमालक। अगर आप अपने इफ यू सी योर एनसीईआरटीज वहां पे भी पिक्चर्स बनी है इनमें से कुछ पॉइंट्स की, दैट इज ऑल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट। क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा है व्हाट इज करेक्टली मैच्ड, द आंसर इज ओनली 2। नाउ Harappa town planning, let's see this. Now the city was surrounded by fortified walls made of mud bricks, ठीक है, सही है, protecting from robbers and floods. Towns were rectangular grid pattern, right angles, बहुत बार पढ़ते हैं, we see this many times. Equal uniformity in the average size of bricks for houses, yes. Most homes had flat roofs with thick walls for temperature control, this is also fine. So Harappan town planning पे this is correct, all the 4 statements are fine here, ठीक है। Now question number 78, patterned ground or stone polygons found in certain biomes. अब ये भी this is a specific question of geography or more static question, okay. So what is this, ये किसकी वजह से, what is this a result of? So this actually is a result of cryoplantation, repeated freezing, thawing cycles. तो हम बात कर रहे हैं पर्मा, we are talking of permafrost. With permafrost think of टुंड्रा बायोम, ठीक है, तो ये हमें टुंड्रा बायोम में भी दिखेगा। अब दिस कैन बी इन द आर्कटिक ऑल्सो, बट दिस कैन ऑल्सो बी इन माउंटेन्स, विच मीन्स आर्कटिक में भी मिल सकता है, अल्पाइन में भी मिल सकता है। तो ये टर्म पैटर्न्ड ग्राउंड स्टोन पॉलीगन्स आर रिलेटेड टू क्रायो प्लांटेशन, दैट इज करेक्ट 78। नाउ क्वेश्चन नंबर 79, अगर आपने बहुत बेसिक इन्वायरमेंट भी पढ़ा है, इफ यू रेड बेसिक इन्वायरमेंट यू विल गेट दिस क्वेश्चन राइट। बिग कैट्स, leopards are the most versatile old world cats capable of persisting, etc. This is true. Puma are described as ecosystem engineers because they can kill gardens that can attract diverse, ये भी सही है। Lions are the only big cats that live in a stable social orders called prides. IBCA, International Big Cat Alliance, provides for the conservation of 7 principal big cats, यहाँ तक सही है, all of which are found in India. This is not correct. In fact, 5 out of the 7 are found in India, right? What is not found in India? You have jaguar and you have puma. Again, this is one of those questions जहाँ पे if you read all the statements carefully, you get your answer. Answer है D, क्या incorrect है? And बाकी भी अगर if you don't know too much of detail on one of them, but one question is very easy that you can directly get your answer. तो एक चीज जरूर याद रखो कि you have to read the questions carefully, then only you will be able to attempt them well. Okay, now Great Atlantic Sargassum Belt, ठीक है, Sargassum is there with Sargasso Sea. Now एक Sargassum is a nitrogen fixer in the tropical North Atlantic. This सही है। Sargassum has a mutualistic relationship with epiphytic nitrogen fixing bacteria that channel newly fixed nitrogen directly to the host in exchange of phosphorus. Now in case you've not read it, this is also correct. Now third is fluctuations in the biomass are strongly, जब भी देखो इस तरह के if you get terms like this, strongly correlated etc, you have to be very careful. Now fluctuation in this biomass strongly correlated with black carbon deposition, Saharan dust deposition. First of all, there is no such correlation like this. This is a kind of almost a bogus statement just to confuse you. There is nothing of this sort that they are strongly correlated with black carbon. Normally speaking, if I'm thinking of black carbon, I'll generally see getting deposited in the ice sheets, and that leads to Arctic amplification या Arctic melting, ठीक है। तो अब ये biomass can fluctuate for other reasons, which can be other, but these are not at all related to black carbon deposition, etc. So here statement 3 is incorrect, okay. And the moment statement 3 becomes incorrect, now I have to see other statements also, okay. So here my answer becomes this. Only one of the statements is correct, that explains statement 1, okay. So now Sargassum, please remember, will be your nitrogen fixer, okay. And think of this information is helpful in the topic of seaweeds. So one of the seaweeds, one of the good example will be Sargassum, it's a seaweed, but now you know it is going to be a nitrogen fixer. Okay. Now this is a one-liner. Sometimes you get these questions. If you don't know it, okay, of course, today we'll see what is the answer to this. In environment ecology, Trojan horse regarding microplastics referred to. The moment I see microplastics, and Trojan horse generally is what? It's like a virus. Trojan horse, it is going to be impacting. What is the impact of microplastics? Very dangerous impact on the ecosystem. Okay. So, agar isme, how do I see? So here, ability of these plastics to absorb, concentrate, and deliver them directly into the organism. Out of all these 4 steps, this is the most dangerous aspect. This is how you can relate to Trojan horse. Okay. So the answer here is B, the ability of microplastics to absorb, concentrate hazardous elements from the environment and directly go into the organism upon ingestion is known as the Trojan horse. All right. Now, let's have a look at it. This question is going to be difficult because now 2 conditions are there. It has to be developed by Indian Agriculture Research Institute. Second, it helps to solve the problem of paddy or stubble. In fact, see, all the 3 can help solve the problem of paddy or stubble. That is there. But the main issue is Indian Agriculture Research Institute. Now, Happy Seeder, suna hoga aapne, which government is distributing them, generally Punjab. So it is by the Punjab Agriculture Institute. It is not by Indian Agriculture. So this is not following this. And the super straw management system is also not by the Indian Agriculture Research Institute. So only 1 out of the 3 follows both the 2 conditions. So here the answer becomes only 1. The other 2, main issue in the other 2 is they have not been developed. Okay, so the straw management is again by the Punjab Agriculture University, Happy Seeder again by Punjab Agriculture University. That is the part. So here I'm sure most of you would have known the second condition, but there will be certain questions which may be slightly more difficult to answer in the exam hall. Here the answer is only 1. Okay. Now, BRS Convention, Basel, Rotterdam, Stockholm, and the most recent COP. This is a direct current affairs based question. Okay. Now, Stockholm Convention, main thing what we are looking for is chlorpyrifos. This is correct. Rotterdam Convention, carbosulfan, phentheon. This is also correct. Basel Convention talks about even e-waste, even textile waste. So here e-waste, etc. This is true. What is there? What is the answer? All the 3 are correctly matched. People who have not done these topics, you should prepare these elements: carbosulfan, phentheon, chlorpyrifos. Okay. And if you again want to prepare it either from YouTube or from, you can also prepare it from our bootcamp batch if you want. Okay. अब आते हैं आखिरी पे. Few remaining questions, and these are again very important questions that you will see. 84. Which of the factors amplify the impact of stubble burning on Delhi's air quality? Amplify means to increase. Okay. Now, northwest wind is bringing a lot of air or sediments or dust particles. So from, let's say, Punjab or even from Pakistan, from other areas. This is true. Let me also take third one, then I'll go to second one. Weak winter solar radiation, specifically in the winters. Okay, there is very limited solar radiation. Okay, right. And also because of that, the impact of stubble burning, etc., is getting elevated. Of course, we know very limited wind movement is also there. Very limited wind movement. Okay, and the conditions in these winters are that it is a very stable condition. Not much movement happens. अब देखो, low planetary boundary layer height. Now, just think of a big system and think of a small system. Now, Delhi, especially during winters, becomes just like a small lid. अब देखो, अगर if the system is very small, you will have lesser space for the air to move in, lesser space for the pollutants. All of them will get mixed. Okay. Second thing, in Delhi, what you see, of course, the height of the boundary layer, the planetary boundary layer, is already very low. The height is low. This is the case when the height is high. Agar if the height is high, things can get dispersed over an area, right? So air along with pollutants, etc., has a bigger space to move around. In case of Delhi, the lower planetary boundary height, first of all, leads to a lot of mixing of these pollutants. Second, There's hardly any movement of air, etc. that goes along. Of course, a lot of western wind transports all the pollutants to one place only. So if you look at it, the problem kya hai? The combination of all these terms, okay? The combination of all these terms lead to more problems. So here, which amplify the impact of stubble burning? All the four will amplify the impact of stubble burning. Sare ke sare. Okay, all the four will amplify the impact of stubble burning, right? So that is again something that we will again have a look at it here. Sorry, all the three I should say. So answer here is C. So northwest wind transport also. In fact, the other ones, which means the low planetary boundary height, if this height was more, right? अगर height ज़्यादा होती तो क्या होता? Main चीज, and in fact this also leads to temperature inversion, which also creates a challenge, right? So temperature inversion है आपके, the heavier air is below, the warmer air is above, right? Weak sunlight hai. So what will happen if the sunlight, solar radiation is weak? So this air cannot be heated, the ground cannot be heated. Then if the air cannot be heated, it cannot move upward. So there will be no strong movement of air upward. This is because of weak solar radiation. This is also a challenge. अब इसमें लिखा नहीं, but I can also add even the calm conditions, very calm conditions. There is hardly any turbulence. Okay, there is no vertical mixing overall. So all these conditions lead to this problem, right? So यहाँ पे if the height is low or if the radiation is weak, all of this will lead to the problem of stubble burning in Delhi. Okay, now fungus and bacteria perform external digestion by secreting enzymes for decomposition. This is absolutely true. They are doing external digestion. Saprotrophic fungi are the primary decomposers in forest ecosystems because of their ability. This is also fine. They are able to break down lignin. Parasitoidism is similar to predation. Yes. Why? In parasitoid, it is a type of parasitism, but the main difference is here, death is going to happen. In predation also death is going to happen, right? It inevitably causes the death of the host, while conventionally parasitism generally does not. Yes, all the three statements are correct. So if you've done decomposition and you've done parasitism, all these interactions well, you will be able to solve this question. Okay, and this is again conceptual question that one should be aware about. Now, Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. Okay, so this is the Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. What is this? Agriculture productivity, crop diversification, sustainable agriculture practices, etc. It talks about. Okay, now it seeks to enhance long-term agriculture productivity rather than merely providing short-term income support. Absolutely true, right? This is talking about agriculture productivity, right? This is the whole mainly thing that we need to know about this. Yes. Now the second point, one second. The scheme emphasizes on structural interventions such as crop diversification, irrigation, post-harvest management. Dekho, post-harvest, irrigation, all of that, crop diversification is a part of this. All right, even that is true. Now, district level planning under the scheme allows for region-specific strategies aligned with national priorities. Even that is correct. Okay, so here the answer is A, right? Under districts to come, states and private sector can also partner it. Okay, and districts whatever are there will be identified on low productivity, low cropping intensity, and less credit disbursement. So that is the whole idea behind the Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. Okay, so keep that in mind. The answer here becomes A, 86. Now Bharat Trade Net BTN announced in the budget. Okay, what is the primary objective of the Bharat Trade Network? Right here, it is simply a unified platform for trade documentation and financing solution. Okay, so here again, if you go through some of the current affairs, you will get to know about it. So 87, the answer simply becomes A, unified platform for trade documentation and financing solutions. Okay, next, 88 again is a question, I think, which if you apply some basic reasoning, you will get it right. You don't need to know everything about the scheme here, because see, you have an NPS scheme, National Pension Scheme. By the way, an NPS was asked by UPSC in 2017. Now this question is on Unified Pension Scheme. So there are certain facts, okay. Central employees covered under NPS as on, they can be part, yes. New recruits after this date, yes. Retired NPS subscribers with less than 5 years of qualifying service, and the last one, legally wedded spouse of the deceased subscribers, okay. So now, first statement is correct, second statement is correct, third statement is incorrect. Why? Because they have a mention of 10 years, okay. Even this is there, right? Other than that, spouse, etc. will be, so the last part, legally wedded spouse of a deceased NPS subscriber, etc. is also eligible to opt for it. So here it is there, okay. But main thing is, this question is of course very factual in nature, but we have seen one time this question, or one type of this question getting asked. So now, in case you did not know and you left this question, okay, that is absolutely okay. This is a very factual current affairs based question. Now, TRQ. Now, TRQ was also in use, tariff rate quotas, in the context of European FTA. Okay, this is again a term that we should know, which is why this question will help you understand what is the idea of tariff rate, and main thing, it's a quota. Okay, so if we look at the tariff rate quota, okay, so let's see, and even if you don't know this, you still will be able to answer it. It's a trade policy instrument, yes. It permits import of a specified quantity. Yes, it's like a tariff rate quota. It's a limitation. It is not 100% of a product at a lower or a zero customs duty. This is absolutely correct. It helps balance market access with production of domestic industries. Yes. So if you have a FTA, for example, and this is in news because of, even I've told you, the India-European FTA. Now, in an FTA, what is there? You have to safeguard your own domestic market, but at the same time, you have to give access to somebody else. So how can you strike a balance? You can strike a balance through a tariff rate quota. So here you can balance market access with protection of domestic industry, is true. Last, the tariff quotas are being used on a wide range of products, but most are in the agricultural sector. This is true, right? So this, of course, 89th, your answer becomes D, right? Up here also, in various sectors, be it meat, be it sugar, okay? So generally we are using it, right? But they can also be used on industrial goods, etc., etc. But mostly you are seeing them in the agricultural goods, tariff rate quotas. Now, Agni 3 missile, okay? The moment you see 3, you should think of the range, that is 3000 kilometers, right? Now let's have a look at it. And this is again a different way in this question which is formed. Developed by DRDO, 2-stage, liquid fueled, ballistic missile, strike range, etc. is mentioned, capable of carrying conventional and nuclear warheads. Now, this was recently in the news also. Main thing is, it is a ballistic missile, true. Okay, you should still read about what is the ballistic and a cruise missile. Now, this should be replaced. You replace liquid fueled with solid fueled. It is a solid fueled missile. It's not a liquid fueled missile. And even in defense and some of this aspect, we need to know some of these aspects. Okay, so here everything is fine. Only thing to be replaced here is replace liquid with solid fueled, and your whole paragraph is absolutely correct. Okay, now in addition to this, you should also know about your intercontinental ballistic missiles like Agni 5. The moment I say ICBM, intercontinental what? Ballistic missile. It's a ballistic missile. The range is bigger. Of course, when I say Agni 5, the range is 5000 kilometers or even beyond. Okay, that is one. Now we are left with almost the last 10 questions, right? So till here, if you are able to watch and you are with me, again maintain the patience for the last remaining questions, and after that also we'll have a very small Q&A. Okay, right. See, cheetah is now extinct in India, but the point is it was there before. Okay, so that nuance that you were saying is also right. I understand why are you saying that. Okay, now Jarava tribe has been in the news. Let's see some questions. Recognized as one of the PVTGs in India, particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Yes, how many PVTGs in India? 75. Maximum PVTGs are in which state? The answer is Odisha. Okay, now their language is classified as critically endangered in UNESCO's Atlas of the World Languages in Danger. Now a question can also be, Atlases of the World Languages in Danger is published by, the answer is UNESCO, and their language is critically endangered. Normally you think of critically endangered in IUCN's red list of species. Okay, this is correct. Recently, the members of Jarawa tribe of Andaman and Nicobar were officially enrolled in the electoral roll for the very first time. Yes. The answer is saying which of the following is incorrect? None. All the three statements here happen to be correct. Okay. Now, you have a question on G20 summit. Okay. Some of the initiatives are mentioned here, right? Mission 300, cost of capital commission, Nelson Mandela Bay target. Okay. So here again a slightly more factual question, but here the answer actually is the first and two are correct. Mission 300 is 300 million people. You give them electricity by 2030. Cost of capital commission is you reform the global credit practicing related to reduce the African risk premium. Okay. And the last one, the Nelson Mandela Bay target. Okay. Here this is related to UBI in developing countries, it is mentioned. Okay. Now this is not correct. Okay. Here the whole idea, it is saying achieving universal basic income in developing countries by 2030. Okay. So here the idea is you're talking about the youth. Okay. And the youth related to employment, right, education and training, right. So basically it is related to youth in employment, education and training. It is nothing like UBI in developing countries. Of course, UBI is a very much debated concept, right. So this is not at all related. If you just read UBI and developing and you crossed it, then it is also fine. But it is specifically related to the employment, education and training of the youth. So third is actually wrong. The first two are correct. Now, Energy Transition Index is a very prominent report published by the World Economic Forum. Let's have a look at it. Okay. Released by World Economic Forum, etc. That is fine. Okay. Second statement, released, it assesses countries on system performance transition. That is also correct. Main cheese, why this report was in news, India's position declined. It is saying it is improved. No. Okay. So India's position has declined. Earlier India was 63rd. Now India is 71st. Don't need to know what is this, but just remember in the Energy Transition Index, India's ranking has declined. All right. Now, MH-60R Seahawk helicopters in the maritime security has been procured by, we have seen certain defense-based even questions in the recent past. The answer here is US. India, US signed a deal for MH-60R Seahawk helicopters. Okay, even if they ask you MH-60R, etc. related to, these are basically helicopters. All right. These are those kind of questions. If you know it, you know it. Okay. Previous questions even related to India, Russia, even related to THAAD, S-400, they've already asked you. So keep that in mind. Now, Yuva for All initiative, launched by the Ministry of Electronics, MeitY, is available on which platforms? Okay. Now, Kaushal Rath, etc. You have Yuva AI for All. Now, just if you apply your mind, is it available on these private edtech portals? We have so many private edtechs. Is this platform available? If this was available, you would have known about it. Yes or no? So can I remove this? Okay, so 4 should not be there in my answer. The other 3 are fine. Future Skills Prime, I got Karm Yogi, which is again related to the government, training of the civil servants, National Digital Library of India, but it is not there in the private edtech portals. Okay, so Yuva AI for All initiative is there in respective portals. Right now, which of the following statements is not correct about the airships based high altitude pseudo satellites? Okay, so question number 96 we are seeing now. Now here we have to see statement number 1. Actually, first thing, remember, these are your unmanned aerial vehicles. These are UAVs. This is correct. To operate in the stratosphere, okay, at around altitudes of 18 to 20. This is absolutely correct. Now, here it is mentioned they depend on liquid rocket propulsion system. This is actually wrong. Okay. The main very important thing which you maybe get surprised by, they actually use sunlight. So basically they used the solar energy. Okay. And the solar energy, which means they are dependent on the solar panels. Even for this region, the question can be asked on the AS, HAPS. So they are not dependent on any of these propulsion system, they're basically dependent on the solar energy that is generated from the solar panels. Okay, and they have a certain high density batteries. Those batteries are there for the night time. In case you're wondering, so what happens when the solar energy is exhausted? You have batteries for night time. So this is wrong. This is your answer, but let's see the other ones. They hover persistently over specific locations, providing real-time monitoring. Yes. India has been developing indigenous HAPS through National Aerospace Laboratories in Bangalore. Even that is correct. Okay. So even that particular part is also right. So that is fine. Now, places in news, generally you will prepare it, and of course, the closer to your exam, you will have then a proper list of all the important places in news. You have Bitra Island, you have Priya Vihar, okay, and you have Suwad, okay. Main thing is, what is the reason why? First thing is correct. Indian Navy is having a new detachment here. Priya Vihar is Thailand, Cambodia border tension. Yes. Now, the Suwad, right? This is actually there in Syria, okay, and this is not at all related to the UN-backed food security phase classification. In fact, this IPC classification, etc., you hear in the news related to Gaza. You hear this in the news related to Sudan, where you have famines. Okay, so this place is in Syria, is not related to or not in news because of this region. Okay, so in fact, in the future, you may still get a question. Declaration of famine or UN-backed integrated food security phase classification was seen in, answer would have been Gaza or Sudan, the places which are there in context of famines. So here only two statements are correct. That is Bitra Island, okay, and this Priya Vihar. And Bitra Island basically is a part of Lakshadweep, okay, whereas the Priya Vihar is there in the Thailand-Cambodia border, and because of the border tensions, it was in news. Okay, now, with reference to the National Medicinal Plants Board, NMPB, okay, it currently functions as the integral unit of Ministry of Ayush. Absolutely correct. In fact, if you see Ayush Ministry, etc., medicinal plants, roadmap, okay, global leadership, it focuses on in situ and ex situ conservation. This is also correct, related to these species. Okay, it functions as a patent granting authority. First of all, this is not a patent granting authority at all. Okay, so in the respective part of, let's say, the Ministry of Commerce, the Directorate of Patents, etc., that is going to be giving the patent. Carefully see, the question is saying which is the following is incorrect. Okay, incorrect may, the answer will be D. Only 3 is incorrect. The first and the second one is correct here. Sanctum community recently the news for passing a resolution to protect pangolins. Now this is a very recent news. In case you've not covered it, here the answer is actually Nagaland. Okay, the Sanctum community resolution to protect pangolins. Pangolins, when you prepare it, pangolins are one of the world's most trafficked mammals, okay, for their scales. So here the Sangatam community from Nagaland has passed a resolution to protect them. And then we move to the last question, which I think some of you would have been able to figure it out. The question is related to United Nations Human Rights Council. Okay, now the reason to ask you this question is directly mentioned here. India has been elected for the 7th time, and if you see the statement, India has been elected unopposed to UNHRC for the 1st time. There's a huge difference, right? So this is absolutely wrong. India has been elected for the 7th time. So this statement is absolutely wrong. Now, it is an intergovernmental body within UN to mandate and promote universal human rights, etc. This is true, right? And the second statement, the member of the council is not eligible for immediate re-election after serving 2 consecutive terms. Even this is correct. Okay, so if you look at the last statement, then of course your answer becomes B. Which is correct is 1 and 2 only. Okay, which brings us to the end of the discussion. Before wrapping it up, I'll just again quickly have a word with all of you. Those of you who have attempted the test, right? Now, a couple of things, again, just I'll quickly repeat. Let's say those of you who are just joining in or again want to know. So we had shared, in fact, if you go to Sunya IAS Telegram channels, in fact, respective channels, we've already shared with you the question paper of the test. Okay. Again, if you want to still attempt it, want to see the test of question paper, test number 1, which was conducted today, you can do so. Second thing, The discussion video is here on YouTube. You can have a look at it to understand. However, the test solution PDF will be now very shortly dropped in the respective Telegram channels. Okay, so in case now somebody wants to go through this, some other details you want to know, you can go through that. Okay, third thing, right, is like I've told you, your learnings from the test are more important than directly your marks. I hope this discussion would have been fruitful to help you understand the range of questions that have been asked and the, let's say, facts around it. So you have to document this, you prepare it. Okay, but the most important thing is the All India mock test, that too, for which the registrations are open. And again, you know, there will be limited seats available. So if you want to again have it in Delhi or in the respective states wherever we have the test available, the date for that is going to be 22nd of March. Okay, and if you see this, you will have now at least 1 month to properly consolidate. Right, after giving the test, there will be some students who will feel, array sir, I have been reading and I have not been able to consolidate, I felt this. The point is, this is February. Okay, take 1 more month's time, you will be in a better position in March and even in a better position in April and May subsequently, if you plan your revisions better. That is there. Now, right now it's February, right? Some of you would have now started to go into the prelims mode. Let's say now you find you get maybe a reality check. Now again, if you have any portions of your exam pending, okay, or maybe some topics you're not able to cover, etc., and you are looking for a very good source, I've already mentioned, we have a very comprehensive prelims boot camp, okay, which you can enroll in. It is available both in English as well as the English mode. Whatever suits you, you can join that. That is something that can give you the edge to cover all these topics in a more structured manner, if that is there. But my main point is, you have to follow this date. Second test though, try to make lesser mistakes. Here maybe some questions are there, and in the second test you will again have a new experience, right? The distribution of questions will change, but we will be again keeping it almost just like UPSC standard, right? So don't expect that the cutoffs will shoot through the roof. The point is, in the recent times we are seeing more difficult papers, right? And when I say difficult, you have to also apply your mind. Here also, if you saw, there are some questions through some thought, some logic, you could have applied that. However, yes, there are some questions that are difficult in nature, right? So it is going to be a mixture of both, right? Now, the people who are there still with us, okay, now if there are any other questions that you want maybe to look at, you just drop it in the comment section. Okay, other than that, again, keep your studies should go on. It should not be, sir, I felt the paper difficult and 4 or 5 days wasted. Not at all, right? The idea is to give a test is to know how are you able to manage the pressure, right? The tests are testing you stress handling capability. So it is not just the marks that we are hereafter. Okay, now I think some of you have already commented. Okay, now if there is any because there's also, we have to also wrap up the session, you can also drop a comment on YouTube if you feel you want to maybe discuss a certain question. Other than that, if I don't see any other question, what we will do, we'll just wrap it up. You will get your PDF, you go through that PDF. If you have any other question, okay, so for that I'm also dropping, you can also drop your comments to this number on any other question which you feel, sir, this is what I was thinking in. Okay, so drop this, you will directly be in contact, okay, with me. Allow me some time to respond. 9319178775. All right, question number 73. 1 second, I'll just have a look at it. I think 73rd that we discussed. 73rd, what is your doubt? Can you please tell me your doubt? In this, you have to take this into the context of the movement. That is again a hypothetical based question when the rotation, the axis of the rotation gets changed, and we're talking of the deflection which takes place in the northern hemisphere. Marks, etc. You will be able to see your marks most probably by tomorrow when that comes out, Kunal. Okay, that will give you an idea. But again, by the look of it, the paper is from difficult or moderate difficult range. So I'm not expecting the cutoffs to be very high, unless maybe some students outperform. Okay, so test is just like the difficulty that you generally see. Okay, so I think maybe on this you will get more clarity when the moment the PDF is shared. Okay, any other question? Again, I'm saying you are more than welcome to drop a comment, because I think other students here, I don't see any other questions specifically. Okay. Direction, etc. Just maybe you can go through. This is how I had explained it to you. If you look at it, maybe the northwest part is where the deflection. Main thing is the trade wind is blowing in the northern hemisphere. If the direction gets tilted, right? Okay, then we'll take all of your leave now. We will discuss the remaining part. And again, howsoever you say performance, if you just drop, I think some of you who are already part of bootcamp batches, you also let me know about your performance. Kaisa raha? Don't worry if the score is less or whatever is there. We have to ensure that we revise our things properly. You still have a lot of time to complete. You have more than almost 3 months available with you. So your planning, if done in the right manner, will give you rewards. Okay. So again, specifically for the people who have, let's say, scored less and they've attempted very high, especially in the very tough questions. Okay. The main thing is we have to assess our temperament. If the paper is tough, how should we attempt the test? So I see, if you have any other problem directly, if you directly want to reach your mentor for Sambhav, do that. If you also want to reach out to me, I've already shared my contact. Okay, so that is there. Prestige, okay, so I'll look into that question also again. If maybe the answer needs to be changed, we'll also have a look at. Okay, so I think 2 people have mentioned that. Okay, so Bhushan as well as Kansal, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, or Akshat, Kanshal Akshat. Okay, so both of you, I think you have mentioned it only in question number 73. Okay, so I'll look it up, and then if there's a need to be changed it, we'll do that. Is that okay? Okay, then all of you, we'll end the session for now. Any other update, you will get it through the PDF that we'll share now. Okay, thank you so much.